Okay. I need one person, I would say, I would just change it every hour. That downstairs, so we don't have to stay here for an hour. We're going over the theory that I said you, and I want to talk about a lot of particular things besides related to physiology, etc. And then we go downstairs to actually practice it lift. When we go downstairs, I would need someone per hour, one dedicated person, to make sure this is a Zoom laptop with people from outside, 2 people, and I report also. Actually, watching this remotely. So one person just making sure the laptop with the camera attached probably will then put a small not the large thing that they can carry it better. Just decline.
Yeah, I can help you.
So this laptop with the computer is in a this laptop with the camera attaches in a spot that the people on Zoom can see. Right, so basically put it somewhere, make sure that there's not many people in front of it. Should be much good, it should still, but you keep it in this place. Who can do the first hour from 3 to 4? Volunteer. 4 to 5? Okay, and then 5 to 6. Okay, cool. That's the last little bit of what can you spell? I have here's
Yeah,
organizational things. Can you please hit record?
I already.
Oh, you're ready then.
Yes.
So my husband Jörg is filming. We actually all Pilates teachers. I think let's do this. Let's go over, just introduce yourself, where you teach, what your name is. So some people know each other, but not everybody.
Yes, my name is Carolina and I'm teaching at the Branch.
Hi, my name is Vivian. I'm teaching at Enzo in Brooklyn and also in the Big T office.
Hi, I'm Linda. I teach in the office.
I'm Allison. I have the Pilates from the
I am Barbara. I have a studio in New Jersey, Degrees Pilates, and I also have a program with Allison here in New York, Pilates for Performers.
I'm Jessica. I teach at Physiologic in Brooklyn and at Terrace Pilates also.
I'm from Hawaii. I teach body tonic, bombshell, and then
And also my private practice.
Cool. And we have Tundi, who has been made on Zoom, and I think Patricia from Italy, she's about, you know Patricia.
Where is it?
Patricia, last name starts with N.
Yes,
Goes way back to
yes.
April. That's so cool. Like, you people know, what, speak up? Oh, yeah.
Speak up for the mic.
Sorry, I have to yell at you, so that. Okay, so let's get started. A few of you have contacted me, and it's always coming up, this question that I want to start out with. And that is the question, and how far is Pilates actually strength building? Right? A few of you have contacted me that's like this major Pilates master teacher. She recently posted on Instagram about how strength forming Pilates actually is, and she gave a couple of examples. And I would like to dial back a little bit and approach this not from an angle of like, emotionally and subjectively like is strength training. Do you look at me, look at my client, this and that. So we need to approach this from an angle that is actually more objective, not so subjective, that's not as emotional, right? So, and I like to, with my education, I like to approach it from a scientific aspect, because you can actually define what fitness is, you can define what strength is. There are a couple of really strengths domains that we will go with. So, in exercise science, fitness is defined as these 5 domains that you have in your hand now. The first one is cardiovascular endurance. right? So that's what we understand as cardio. There is an aerobic type of cardio, which is steady state, and a more intense type of cardio, which is anaerobic. We'll not talk much about that. So that's cardiovascular endurance. That's one domain of fitness. The next one is maximum muscular strength. So this has to do with our bodies contracting, working the systems, neurological muscular systems working so well together that the body is capable of lifting a heavy load 1, 2, or 3 times, a few times, but not very many times. Or really forceful, strong contractions of the body. That's maximum muscular strength. Take note there is a difference between maximum strength and strength endurance. In the subsequent slides, when we zone into the strength part of it more, the slides will only say endurance, but this is muscular endurance. Talking about muscular endurance, not cardiovascular endurance. That's already, not, that doesn't affect us. We don't need to talk about it because Pilates isn't really cardiovascular training. I mean, we can really pull that out right away. Just if anyone tells you Pilates is cardio, if you do it fast, it really isn't. So we can. You're smiling because you're coming from a background that is more of the campy style, right? But still, I mean, if you're very deconditioned, your heart rate may go up a little bit, but hopefully that just to that, then it really isn't. It shouldn't be. It does aerobic training. So let's go back down. Let's go to the muscular endurance portion of strength. So these are 2 strength domains: maximum strength and muscular endurance. So here we're talking about more repetitions, and typically in a range of like 10, 12, let's say 15 plus repetitions, but not exceeding 40 or 50 reps, right? So it's not a situation that you would consider running as strength building because you can do it for so many reps. And plus, if that was the case, marathon runners would be gigantic, right? So it's below 50 repetitions, but above 50 minutes. And this, take note, I'll zoom into this a little more later. Take note of the different adaptations the 2 have, right? So maximum strength training has effect in the muscle itself and contractile speed and strength of the muscle, whereas muscular endurance zones in much more into fatigue resistance and domains as that. Next, we have the parameter of flexibility. We can all agree Pilates increases flexibility. That's yeah, right. So that's the one parameter that it delivers pretty well in, right? The question is only how important is that really, right? I mean, how important of a health parameter is that? It is important, but it's not, it's not as important as body composition, for instance. So being strong, being able to catch yourself when you fall, right? So there have been debates about taking flexibility out of that equation altogether, but for now, it's still a parameter of that determines how fit someone is. Lastly, we have body composition. That's the relationship of how much lean mass, bone, muscle, water versus fat a body has. On the second page, I put in a screen, which is basically an intake form from the National NSCA, National Strength and Conditioning Association, which is one of the main fitness certification bodies, NSCA and ALCM, American College of Sports Medicine. Sorry for all these acronyms, they're also long. But these are really the 2 biggest, most recognized domains and certifying engines in the fitness world. There are many others. So here you can see an example of an intake form and how these things are tested. Because if we want to establish something in science, it needs to be quantified. It needs to be tested. Otherwise, it's invalid. We can't deal with, there is qualitative research, that is questionnaires, etc., but that's not in the science. That's more psychology and these soft sciences. when it comes to exercise science, we want to measure. We want to have an intervention, we want to measure it, and we want to see what effect it has. Then we want to make that effect as reproducible as possible also. So we want to make the environment as controlled as possible. We want to take any opinion out of there. There's no science that nothing I feel, I think it's really statistics. But comparing numbers, that's what's important in scientific research. So you can see the different measurements, how you can measure maximum strength, how you can measure flexibility. It's a simple reach test, interestingly, is a valid test to measure mobility in research. We have aerobic capacity, anaerobic capacity. So one has to be VO2 max. The other one you measure blood lactate by, for example, taking blood tests. But these are all, these are more invasive tests, of course, but these are tests that are done in fitness often before you start to work on clients. So now I would like to talk about, and this is something that's where you talked about this before. So what is muscle building and what is strength building? We have to really briefly, I'm gonna make this really, really short and not too deep. But we need to talk about the three energy systems in the body, because this is where the three strength domains also come from, or are based on, right? So we have the aerobic system. That's the system that fuels us when we're sitting here at rest. Its main energy source is fat. So as we sit here, the body continuously converts fat into ATP. You don't need to know what that is. It's just how the body creates energy. So there's a constant, there needs to be an energy source that is converted into energy to make the body move. The aerobic system is non-fatiguing. We don't even feel what's going on. Our heart rates are not really very high, right? So it keeps going, and it's just fueling us with the sources and resources that we have a lot of in our bodies, just fat cells. Now, as we from rest now increase our exercise, let's say we start to jog. The aerobic system is non-fatiguing, which is great, but it's a gigantic engine. So there's a lot of chemical processes happening. So it's pretty slow, right? So it doesn't convert fat into energy very fast. It's like, you may remember the Krebs cycle from biology class. It's a big engine, so it's not fast enough anymore to provide the energy for now when you get from rest into a slow jogging situation. So another system that's faster has to help kick in to make it possible for us that we can move faster. And let's consider the glycolytic system. Sorry for the typo, the Y missing. So that's a faster system, but it is fatiguing. So you can run faster, but at some point you will be exhausted and you have to come back, rely on the aerobic system. You're just basically slowing down. You can't run anymore. Now, if you go from running slowly to going as fast all out as you can, because you're sprinting 100, 200 meters, you need a system that is kicking in really fast and then rely on another source, like on resources that don't need to be converted, which are phosphagens. So it taps into the phosphagen resources that are stored in the body and converts those into energy that can move really fast, but it fatigues really quickly. So it's depleted really quickly. So when you fatigue, you can't sprint for forever. You can't. It is not possible. You will slow down. You will slow down, relying into the glycolytic system, and then you will slow down again sometime, depending on the fitness level and how the individual body is actually capable of converting all these energies stored of all of these substrates into energy. Some bodies can do it faster, so they are more effective, they're fitter. And some bodies, not at all. So people get out of breath when they walk, right? So these are the three main systems. This is The phosphate system, think of it as rapid, strong, quick reacting, but you fatiguing really fast, right? This is the sprint. This is your few maximum lifts. Here's the connection to strength now, right? One to maybe five heavy lifts. And after that, it's depleted and we rely more on the glycolytic system. And also depletes. Think of this more like a 400 meter, 800 meter. This is actually the system that's really annoying. This one, the phosphagen one, when you stay in that, 100 meter sprint, it's not really getting you out of breath much, right? You deplete your phosphagens. It's painful while you do it for 10 seconds, but it's really short. That's the system that I love. Yeah. Do your interval, boom, done. It hurts for a moment, but then great. 1, 2, 3 heavy lifts. Cool. Here we talk about 8 to 12 repetitions, right? Just who trains with me, you know what I'm talking about, 8 repetitions, you're like, oh, come on. You know, this is heavy lifting, not quite as heavy as the maximum lift, but it still should be fatiguing, right? It should be heavy, but for 8, 12 repetitions. So this is where it really starts to burn. 400, 800 meters sprinting, that's tough. You know, that's not over in 10, 15 seconds. This is burning. This is where you feel like I have to throw up now. This is where the body is in fast, right? And the aerobic system, you know, these are like, what was my line? So the 3 systems, yeah, okay. The aerobic system is just the system that's always present, right? So we should teach our body to make the aerobic system. That's what training does, as effective as possible, and we don't need to tap into these fatiguing systems so soon. And that means the more your body is able to do that, the fitter you are. The more marathon runners, the more that up their capacity and run on that aerobic engine, the better they're off, right? If you fatigue in a marathon, you can't watch your form anymore, and you have to rely on this mostly. That's gonna be really tough. So 3 energy systems. Now let's zoom into strength because we also have 3 strength domains. Right? So as said before, fast contraction. Sorry for the icon inconsistencies. I just wanted to get the content out, and at some point I just disregarded them. Sometimes the endurance is always blue because it's oxygen based, but sometimes they're just reversed. Sometimes icons themselves are different. That's a laptop? Wow. So with the 3 domains now, let's go away from the wording of the energy systems more into what they actually mean in strength domains. We have maximum strength. Let's just call it maximum strength because it really builds contractile forces in the muscles very efficiently and heavy, makes you stronger. It increases how fast brain, muscles, nerves work together, that you're able to lift something off the ground that's very heavy in a few times. Then we have the intermediate system, where you lift things 8 to 15 times. And that's a system that's designed to really be able to put stress on the muscles themselves, right? So this is really something that is where the greatest goal is to build muscle, right? 8, 15 repetitions, there's some damage happening microscopically in the muscle, which is being patched up, right? And this is why muscle grows. There's the difference to maximum strength. So hypertrophy, which means muscle building, tissue building, right? That's the domain of the intermediate energy system. And it's also the second domain. So think of this, look at, some picture. Think of this like the guy, powerlifter, big guy, the strong guys who lift. Yeah, well, get some of the you really have to have max in order to lift max. So this is your maximum strength, this is your power lifter. This here is more your bodybuilders, the ones that are really, the type of lifting that Carolina does. So it's more focused on actually optimizing the muscle, building the muscle. It doesn't necessarily mean that these people are as strong, they aren't as strong as powerlifters because they're not really, they don't have the contractile strength. They're pumping the muscle, and pumping is the right word. They're pumping a certain, they're using these breaking apart, patching it back up, breaking apart, patching it up mechanism to make the muscle size, increase muscle size. And then the muscular endurance portion of this would be lifting a small weight repetitively, times 20 times or so. So what that does from a physiological level is it really just builds, it creates blood flow, right? So it helps with the healing and it increases the threshold of the body fatigue, blood flow, recovery, etc. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, it does, right? So maybe Pilates could be a bit of that. Not for everybody. If you look at now what it means, what the optimum on this screen, what the optimum or research and scientifically validated rep, set, and load screen combinations are for the different systems. You will see maximum repetition ranges from maximum strength 1 to 5, sets 3 to 6. Bodybuilding hypertrophy, more repetition 6 to 12 approximately, right? But sets 3 to 5 as well. Now for muscular endurance to elicit an adaptation in the body, we have 12 to 20 plus reps and 2 to 4 sets. So if you think of this Pilates wise, if we just take the minimum amounts that are listed here, 12 times 2, 24 reps. I mean, that would be the minimum one to really elicit the fatigue, a response in the body. Are we really doing 24 reps plus in Pilates? Is not really relevant. So the question really is, does it build muscular endurance? Maybe someone who's very conditioned, but in general, not that much, right? So this next screen here is just a visualization how these two domains, what the folded parts are, that distinguishes between the 3 domains. You can see here intensity and duration, right? Endurance long, intensity low. Heavy weights are very low. So in weightlifting, intensity means low. It doesn't mean getting the heart rate up. That is oftentimes people confuse that. It doesn't mean you're jumping up and down with weights. No, intensity means heavy. That's your load. That's how in lifting, load is measured. So if someone tells you, talks about high intensity resistance training, that means load. So endurance, long duration, low intensity. Hypertrophy, bodybuilding, medium duration, medium load, maximum strength, short duration, high intensity. This next screen, I sometimes get these questions that I don't really know how to answer because they're really actually good, and that's one of those questions. So if all of this matters, why not just do this and that together? Doesn't that create something? Don't I do something? Why don't I do a set or 2 of maximum strength and then after I do a few sets of the hypertrophy part? And that's not really how that works. The body needs the reps and sets schemes that I just talked about, and you have to do them. Otherwise, if that stimulus does not reach, nothing happens. Yes, so you can't just mix things together in hopes that does something, because it doesn't do something. You feel you're doing something while you're doing it, but the adaptations I talked about, increasing the contractile forces in the body, building tissue, creating anti-fatigue. Now, those are just not happening. So you kind of waste your time. So I like this, the body adapts specifically to the stress it experiences. By the way, in physiology, stress is something good. Stress is something that makes, it's nothing, it's not nothing negative that we often associated in psychology. Physiological stress is what creates adaptation. It needs to be there. And I like this, no more and no less. So if you mix it too lightly, the worst thing that happens is just not getting any adaptation. It's just annoying, right? That's why you're doing. And you're exposing yourself to exercise. So athletes or lifters, they really choose their domain. It's really goal oriented. Whatever their sport needs is that what they're focusing on, right? They're power-based athletes. They work on the lower rep ranges. If they're power lifters or if they're field athletes, they really whatever contributes to their sport best. Whereas general populations, oftentimes we start with like a hypertrophy portion. First is an intro phase, right? So you need to teach the motor control, the neuromuscular system, what's really actually happening. You don't want to lift super crazy heavy. You take a couple of weeks or maybe even months to get used to how it is to lift something. Then comes a phase where you start to load this a bit, but in a higher rep range to build muscle. We need to build muscle before we can add maximum strength. That just needs to be there, right? So, and then once the bodybuilding portion of a couple of weeks is completed, to have the first cycle of pushing the load a little bit and going down the reps, right? And this is a continuous cycle for general populations, right? More reps, building more muscle, and then tapering down, adding load, etc. So the other thing is also that the stimulus should vary a little bit, but you shouldn't always be doing the same things. And that's the other thing that Pilates is often. I mean, there's so much, I don't know, in strength training we call it junk reps, junk competitions. There's so many things that we're just doing because they're in our order, but what do they really do? I mean, we may have an explanation for it, but if you look at it from like really, what does it actually create in the body standpoint? Sometimes I find it questionable. If someone comes to me who's like super weak, I don't do the footwork and the coordination, Melissa, hi. Hi, sorry. I'll keep going. I have maybe if you want to sit on the headboard. Good to see you. Oh, stimulus should be there, but it should be similar, but it shouldn't be the same all the time. I'll talk about this a little bit more. But if you do different things all the time, that's not really contributing either, but you shouldn't repetitively do the same thing either. And this is where periodization comes into the game. I'll talk about that in a moment. Okay. Short note about strength sports. I'm not sure if you know what they are. They're also organizing them by a strength, maximum strength. So we have the heavy lifters, the power lifters, right? They slowly one rep. They have 3 different exercises that they compete in. Squat, we'll do that later. Everybody gets the squat with a barbell today. Deadlift, same thing, and bench press. And these are the measures, this is their exercise. That doesn't mean that they're training these only all the time. There are many accessory movements, exercises that they do in order to get better at those. They look at where's the weakness in the body, etc. Then we have Olympic lifters. Their strength is correlated to time. They need to get something off the ground fast because they need an overhead. And you're very limited, the human body is very limited in pushing stuff overhead. Our arms and shoulders are just the weakest part of the body, right? So the way this is done is they need to get under the bar so that the stronger body parts hips and legs can help push up. And then from there, they use, again, the whole body to press. They have two main lifts, which is the snatch and the clean and jerk. So this means fast lifting, and fast means power. So they're very powerful, fast athletes. We have some Olympic platforms downstairs. I was talking to Jess earlier. I hope there are not too many Olympic lifters because, you know, they get stuck up. They only have to get it up, right? And down it goes. So, where we will be in a moment, is right next to the Ollie platform, so let's see who's there. But then, you know, at the same time, you'll see some Olympic lifting, right? Now, for muscle building, hypertrophy, bodybuilding, you know, right? So they're really, I really like to talk fast about this. It's really about building tissues. I mean, this is aesthetics, it's physique. You know, it's judged not by lifting, but by how you look. And they're building really, they look at the muscles, shapes, and which muscles should be more developed, etc. It's really just creating this continuous stimulus of stress, tearing, patching, growing, right? Strength and conditioning or athletic training really taps into all three of these, depending on the sport. And then when we come to endurance training, the most prominent or well-known one is probably kettlebell training. It's established by a Russian, and it's become pretty popular. Also, CrossFit has popularized it. So they do things like lifting a kettlebell in a certain way 50 times or so. I'm not very familiar with it, but this is really a repetitive, more endurance-based example that's well known. Okay, any questions?
I don't know if this is too specific, so if it is.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, sorry, yes, I don't know if it's too specific.
I have your answers that you sent me in here already, just so but yeah.
So, okay, it might be too specific, so,
Yeah.
but so. What it throws me off to a loop a little bit on this area, the strength hypertrophy endurance is the fact that, so when they start seeing the hypertrophy can be from 6 to 30 reps, that in relation to periodization throws me off a little.
You mean the rep range so high?
No, with this division.
The division, yeah, so
It throws me off a little in the periodization, like it kind of like makes you, it throws me off to a loop a little bit, you know?
that it's categorized. I mean, we're talking about the human body here, and we're trying to make things understand and make it black and white for science reasons, right? So it's that boxed because, you know, we need to categorize it. Does the body really go from that system to that system? No, it all overlaps. And same with the rep ranges too. There's now more and more discussions about how they actually, you can also build strength, you know, but that's not, I'm really here to like make things clear, black and white. In reality, you know, sometimes things don't work that in such a box manner at all, right? Makes sense?
That's sometimes that's the confusion really in it, like talking about Pilates too, that, you know. Because to some people that are very big definition, you know, 5 crisscross sets, that might be enough, but that, you know, like it's just so nuanced that.
Well, I'll talk about what Pilates actually does, actually not in this section. And there is some benefit there. Well, there is population for which it's really beneficial and also not exactly that. So
The word that you guys posted,
Periodization.
that's coming later too. That has to do, well, that has to do with program, that has to do with program design. And it has to do with moving the body through a certain stimulus that is changing just a little bit, but not that the different things all the time. So this is what's called periodization. We basically fill in certain time blocks where we work on this a bit more and on this a bit more. I'll show you. I have a periodization table. It can be super confusing, but it can also be just really easy. Yeah.
And it might be similar to what Carolina was just asking, but when we were talking about the differences of the intensity, endurance, hypertrophy and strength, and why not just one set of each? Is that applicable, like, for example, if we're doing, say, for just like an athletic person in the gym that's doing compound lifting, and then there's after that compound lift.
I got into that, that's program design, I got into that too.
Right, because it is confusing, because then it's sort of like if I do it black and white, it's like I should just compound lift. And then I shouldn't do my,
Yeah, you should, I talk about
Okay.
that. So. There are. In exercise science, there are certain principles that are basically the rules that everyone, that define what should be paid attention to create a successful program. Make sure it's individualized enough, challenging enough, reproducible enough, etc. So this is what the principles of exercise science are. And I just want to list them to you because I think these are so important that every Pilates teacher should also include them into their program, right? Into their Pilates program. For instance, we have the principle of specificity, something the stimulus needs to be specific to what you want to achieve. You want to, like, people sometimes tell me, I can run right now, so I'll bike, and that's just, so that way I keep my strength. No, that's not how it works. If you bike, if you become good at biking, you become good at running. But it doesn't, it has to be a specific stimulus. It's really kind of frustrating, but that's what the body does. I mean, certain parameters will help, but really, if you really want to get good at something, then it has to be the stimulus that you want to be good at. When Pilates, for instance, you say often, if you want to get better at the teaser, do it here and there and there and there. And that's not true either. Teaser on the reformer doesn't get better necessarily if you do the same shape all the night. It has to be the teaser on the reformer. So you need to do the task at hand. So because shape may look the same, but the gravitational pull is different. Arm position is different. And gravitational pull is really important. Because on the reformer, it's not only gravitational pull, but also straps that pull us back. We need to work the task at hand. Now, overload. And the body, in order to achieve the stimulus, I think that's clear now, we need to continuously make things harder. Otherwise, someone's wasting their time. To Pilates, we have springs. That's not really a good overload at all because we have more springs. And also, the springs are not really, it's not always harder if you have more springs, right? So that physical overload, it's kind of not really, it's very hard to do it, guys. But it is important to achieve the stimulus. Now, progression, the body loves progressive. If you do, and I keep preaching that and my clients a lot, and I do the same mistakes too, I'm not progressive enough. At a certain age, it just comes to the number one rule. You can't just go run for 20 minutes after doing nothing for some time. That's too much of a stimulus. It's too much for your body. It's too much for your tissues. Right? You need to introduce things slowly. So it has to be progressive. Because otherwise you get injured. Sometimes you have to put together progressive overload. Melissa, you had a question here, 5 or 8. Remember the question that you. How do you, the question was, how do I know when to make things harder? Yeah, and then you said 5 or 8. 5 or
But it
8.
was more for the lead, like, when I know I have, I was thinking in wait.
Yeah.
How I'm ready to move on forward, like we
Yeah.
train on
I will
Thursday.
talk about this more in the later slides too.
Yeah.
But the important part is you're not going 5 to 8, right? I mean, it depends on what muscle group we're talking about. I don't even know what weight, it's a very low weight 5 or 8. But key is if you add something, you add it very progressive. And you add it, if you do 5 sets of something and you want to make it harder, you're not making all 5 sets harder all of a sudden, right? Just right? So you add a repetition the first set, next time you add 2 sets. So gradual is important. Individualization and the important part you need to see what's in front of you basically, right? You need to recognize their goals. You need to see what you think of important to them. Need to take into account, I talked about the intro phase, you can't just train them really hard, right? Train them, I need to, allow them to get adjusted to whatever you teach them or that allows the exercise. Variation is important in the sense I talked about it. There needs to be a certain stimulus change, the body alert, still ready to, it just, if you keep doing the same thing but your numbers are going up and up and up and up and up and up, there will be a time when the numbers slowly start to plateau. If you don't change the stimulus, this is why periodization is so. It's been studied, really. It's been studied very thoroughly, but it's a really interesting science. How strong should the stimulus be, and how much should it change, and how much should it not? Right, but there needs to be a change, otherwise the numbers plateau.
So like, why is that not true then for like the powerlifters, if they're only doing those 3 main lifts?
Yeah. There's so many variations. So they take these lifts apart. They go not from the floor, they go to boxes, where they can overload it.
Okay.
So that's the thing. They take even also power lifters. We lift from boxes. We lift from low box, so we're higher up. So that increasing the movement part. They are very whatever the body is weakest in which position. That these are already analyzed, breaking the movements apart, and that part of the body is weakest, where it fails, where you can't get the way up, that's where we stay in that range. That's stronger. It's really interesting. All the different variations of just very few types of exercises. Okay. Let's move on. So I found interesting to look at what the physiological exercise physiology landscape was in order to let that help me understand why Pilates created his method, like he said. Right. So why did he make it so few repetitions? Why did he choose springs? I mean, that answer I don't know, it's an easy type of resistance, but why did he use all the breathing, right? So, and interestingly, in the early 1900s, when he developed the brunt of his methods, people believed, and exercise scientists believed, that they knew that exercise movement is good for the body. They knew that, but they believed that exercise creates toxins that are not good for the body. It's almost like crystals in the crystal-like muscle deposits that needs to get the body needs to flush out. So the body needs to this really is reflected in Jordan Pilates' language too, like toxins out of the body, waste winging out, breathing out, flushing out. He says that a lot, right? And that comes from the exercise physiology at that time. So they believed the muscles are toxified, right? Today, and what they really, this was really mostly meant, what they talk about it is lactic acid and lactate. Those are 2 things that were long thought that even muscle soreness comes from lactic acid, which is not true. Soreness comes from micro tears in the muscle. That's a good thing because it's how much it's happening. Doesn't mean you always have to be sore after exercise, but that's the reason for delayed onset muscle soreness, right? So lactic acid is really a very temporary state because it's an acid. So the body doesn't like acids, right? So lactate comes in and buffers lactic acid quickly. And lactate, as we know now, is actually an energy system. It's not a system, it's an energy, it's a fuel, it's a substrate. It's also an energy shuttle. It shuttles ATPs in the body, so it helps to create energy. It's not a toxin at all. And this is something that they back then didn't know, right? So Joseph Pilates wanted to prevent high intensity exercise to avoid the creation of lactate, the formation of lactate, and lactic acid, hence the few repetitions. But
Maybe there is also a bit of I'm just gonna say it, chauvinism in the sense of like, you know, how women were supposed to work out and look in a certain way at that time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, God forbid, you get a bit big and looking like a man, you know what I mean, stuff that's still nowadays, but do you think there's a little bit of that too, or it's just me coming from my
yeah, I mean, when you think of Pilates or strength training,
no class. The way he created or the language and stuff, you know what I mean, like, if you see the old posters and like, you know.
I don't know, I mean, I never really analyzed this work in like I've been working on compare females and males to be honest. I think I wonder if that guy, if he had known what we know now, that high intensity exercise is actually important for adaptation and more effective in adaptation, would he have created the same method? That's my question. The guy who stands on the belly of a singer, the guy who's like, you know, I mean, he wanted adaptation. I don't think he would have created a recovery method, right? I mean, that's what I think. And we don't know.
Yeah.
Did he train females and males differently? I don't know. So I actually don't think so. I don't, like I said, I don't know the archival footage enough. Yeah, so this is food for thought, really. You know, why did he do what he did? It's interesting to think about, but I think, you know, if you look, I hope this scientific exercise approach help you a little bit to understand what's needed, or to see where the Pilates falls into that. And I also think, I sometimes get asked, like, do you think Pilates is dying? This will be over? I don't think it will ever, because I think, you know, there's exercise fitness, and then there is yoga and these modalities. Pilates sits right in the middle there. It's the low impact part. It's right. I think this is such a big component of all of this that it really, I don't think it will ever. It's synonym for low impact exercise. Right. I mean, but that's totally my personal opinion, totally.
I think my whole life I danced, for a brief time I didn't do gymnastics. I think when you look at many of his exercises, it's definitely coming from a gymnastics world, you know? And I don't think I think he was thinking more gymnastics instead of this, the movement, because that's what he knew. That's the only
Yeah,
thing that he didn't know,
you know,
no.
think of what, I mean, gymnastics is a competition.
More shape wise and tricks I'm talking about, but then if he brought the dancers in, whenever he brought them in the 1960s, he loved the elongation of the lines and the energy and the blah, 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 blah. So I think you're right, he would have definitely changed, but if anybody has ever really done gymnastics, you'll see that that's based on a lot of his work, more movement of tricks rather than scientific. Because I think he wanted people to move.
Yeah, but he also studied the systems. Part of
Yeah,
it.
but apparently he didn't have a lot
Everything,
of, from what I hear from who knows what world we're listening to in here, but not a lot of information, not a lot of,
exercise physiology.
yes.
I mean, the early 1900s are exercise science are actually a time where things started really to pick up.
Didn't he start in the like late 1800s and come to Europe,
83.
right? And then I think most of his brain was working early
Yeah.
on, from what I heard. So his mother, I think, what's the history? Apparently his mother said, go get strong because he got beat up or something.
I want to avoid to go, and I have put myself back doing that too. I've been 3 minutes in this section, and I wanna avoid going too deep into rabbit holes.
No, I'm
So
just
many
saying what you're doing
opportunities
is
to-
great, because it's, I think what you want it is what I'm saying. I think yay and yeah for doing this.
Well, it's just, you know, trying to put the scientific lens on adaptations in the body, really. And he was definitely interested in affecting this, right?
Yeah.
So now that we talked about Pilates from that angle, what it doesn't do. What does it actually do? What is it good at, right? So, this is the right. That one part, so it's not strength training, it's not aerobic training, it doesn't really increase the parameters of fitness so well. Let's make the questions right.
Yeah, sorry, but when you say not aerobic training, if you
You missed that in the beginning.
I'm not saying that.
No, but also, it doesn't increase the heart rate sufficiently, it doesn't. We mean. Two sentences. Aerobic training is, classified at low intensity, medium intensity, heart rate, yeah. Simplest measure, and there are others that are more reliable, but it doesn't, unless you are deconditioned, it does not increase the heart rate enough for an intermediate, into an intermediate range, which is about 60 to 75 is considered the medium intensity. It does increase the heart rate to a low level, which is today considered zone 2. And it's zone 2 because zone 2 is really recovery. Okay, so it's low intensity aerobic training, but it doesn't have many adaptations. As many adaptations cardiovascularly, it doesn't have adaptations on the body that increase your body's capacity to metabolize oxygen. Right, and that's in essence what cardiovascular training should do. Make your body strong and getting all the oxygen fast to the tissues that move. And zone 2 training or Pilates is just not high enough of a stimulus for that. Even if you do Pilates fast.
Or consistent enough, right?
Yeah, if it's that slow, that low intense, below 60%, should at least be to long duration, right? But we spike it a bit into a low intensity, but then it backs off again. Right?
Enya,
So,
Enya,
except for mobility.
Yeah, I can hear you, Sandy.
I have a question, Enya.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you address quote unquote small muscle groups compared to big muscle groups? And then, because everyone says, okay, well, Pilates is getting your smaller muscle groups to support your big muscle groups.
That's what Pilates says, smaller muscles give you bigger muscles?
No, that in Pilates isn't one of the things that it does is it's getting into your pelvic floor, which is your pelvic floor going to strengthen from lifting like a bodybuilder?
But you're saying in Pilates.
Let's say for women to keep your organs, your organs supported when you get older, so you don't have a bladder issue. I'm not. It's not an argument. I just want to know why.
I'm trying to understand the question. So you're saying using Pilates to be to lift more safely?
If I'm taking lifting out of the component and I'm saying if a client of mine says, what's the benefit of Pilates? Can't your answer be, well, that it's because you are strengthening your smaller core muscle groups?
Yeah, but the question is if you look at scientific studies, I always have to refer back to that. Then if you look at studies, Pilates compared with other methods isn't really all as effective
Okay.
strengthening. Pelvic floor, I don't know how many studies there are because it's very difficult to test pelvic floor strength. Right? It's invasive.
Yeah.
But the studies I've seen for the studies I've seen for increasing abdominal strength has shown that it can be affected, but really only in the muscular endurance range. Right, so hypertrophy
Got
is
it.
not really, you can't, if you do a lot of Pilates compared to another method, and whatever that method is, it may increase your non-fatiguing capacity in the abs, but it doesn't give you stronger hypertrophied abs.
Got it.
Because the stimulus is just too low. Yes, so that's really my answer. Does that help you lift for other lifts? I would argue you need really a more muscle mass, hypertrophy, to lift safer. And you also need a system that is able to react and be faster, meaning, the maximum strength system uses a different muscle system. It uses the fast twitch fibers, right? I didn't even
Got
mention
it.
before, but there's a different fiber
Yeah.
type that's being used too. So throwing all of this together, thinking out loud, basically, I think Pilates isn't really a good preparation for lifting from a muscular standpoint. What it is, though, it is beneficial for lifting when it comes to motor control. Better
Right.
people who move in that way know better where their body is in space and how to contract the muscles and to stabilize, etc. They have that understanding. Does that make sense?
Yes, are you going to get to somewhere along the line of the spine in terms of you're gonna again?
We have to get going. Keep your question for the end. I would love.
Okay, got it. All right.
Is that okay?
Okay. Yes.
So these are in orange. These are the system. These are what I think, and also what scientifically has been shown to be effective. That Pilates is effective. It improves recovery, right? So it improves blood flow. It gets all the fluids flowing. Basically, it's a great thing to do in lifting language on your deload days. You don't lift. Is walking also good? Yeah, probably. Getting the system going. That's why zone 2 is in so many people's mouths right now, because it's a great tool. It's shown to be a great tool to recover the body to be ready for the subsequent, exercise in there. It proves it may improve muscular endurance if you're in a more conditioned state. Older people, right? It's great for motor control, like I said, so it makes you better at movement, plain English. And it has effects on parasympathetic activation. So that means studies, for instance, have shown that you sleep better if you do Pilates, right? So it makes you calmer. The parasympathetic system is something that's the opposite of psychological stress. As you know, it's the opposite. It's your recovery system, your rest and digest system, where the hormones like cortisol doesn't spike. These are important things because, hormones affect what happens in our body quite intensely. So being able to be in a more parasympathetic state is important for health. Now, when it comes to looking at what populations is it good for, so who is it good for? It is great can be an effective form for older people. It can be for deconditioned individuals, for those with any type of health conditions, right? It can be a very unintimidating way to start the fitness journey, right? So particularly for women who we have many females with Pilates. They just really don't. Some people, I have few clients teaching in both places. They really need it here. They don't think it's loud. It's not loud as weekend. Not downstairs yet, but you know, at least they do something, right? That matters too. Sometimes we just have to also accept that. I agree with that. And it's also good for people who want to get better at Pilates, right? I teach quite a few Pilates teachers, right? Okay, now let's look at breathing because we need that in a moment. There are 3 different breathing types I would like to go over. TBA activation, we do it in Pilates a lot, right? It basically, so when it comes to breathing, breathing needs to be appropriate for the intensity that you do. Don't need to brace in Pilates or everyday life, right? Because it's not a it's not a high intensity type of exercise. That's why we have the deep core activation. No, not very destabilizing, more for low level intensity. We have control, etc. The next one is bracing. So here we talk about lifting and you need to lift. It's not your maximum effort, but you need to learn how to brace in a 3-dimensional way. Well, so that your forceps muscles are tight 3-dimensionally. And then you push air up with an inhale and you push air out by contracting the diaphragm with descends during inhale. Pelvic floor ideally contracts receiving that load. So you have a container that's a stiff container inside of your spine that is shown to be stabilized. Their study is comparing bracing and non-bracing during lifts, and it does increase the load on the spine. Now, as you lift, in regular bracing, breathing is possible. You have to stay tight. So it's more like being tight and just breathing. Not taking little air somewhere out and in, out and in and out, and without letting this 3-dimensional tightness go. Now, when it comes to maximum lifting, which is a difficult, we utilize what's called the Valsalva maneuver. It's a difficult procedure, so we won't do it today. It's a really clear. So it's the same as bracing, but on top of it, it's an attempted exhale that is not happening. You're holding the breath the whole time. So this is for a max 1-time lift. So you engage 3-dimensionally, inhale, and try to exhale, but you're not letting it happen. So does that make you dizzy? Yes. Yeah. Is it good for people with any type of cardiovascular conditions? Probably not. So it increases the pressure, but in this case, the most important part is spinal safety during a heavy lift, and that it does. Now, the attempted exhale, you may wonder, why is that important? The attempted exhale, looking at the anatomy of things, on an inhale, the thoracic diaphragm on an inhale contracts down, and the pelvic floor diaphragm, it relaxes down. On an exhale, this diaphragm here relaxes out. So the diaphragm, the thoracic diaphragm is a muscle of inhalation, it contracts on inhalation. But the pelvic floor diaphragm contracts on an exhalation. So the attempted exhale is meant to let the pelvic floor diaphragm pre-contract. Now this is I've always wondered, is this really repeated, and then you try to, where are the studies here? So how is this actually working? Then, I've really talked to a lot of people, and then in strength populations, do we really talk much about the pelvic floor? Not that much, right? But what I find most important is try it for yourself, right? If you lift heavy, try it. Put your hand between your legs, maybe behind your vagina, and see what's happening in the perineum when you exhale. Is it really pulling up a little bit? Who's it should? Are you bearing down maybe? That would kind of suck. You need to, I encourage you to do that. So that's the Valsalva maneuver. This is the screen from my colleague Jeff Young, who's great at explaining things, so I borrowed that from him. And this is a great screen that covers the basics of program design. Bye, Santos.
See you next time.
Yeah. I don't wanna go over all of them, but what does matter now is the objective intensity. So I would like to, why? Because how do we measure if someone walks in the door, new client? And how do you establish what weight she should live, right? So how can you see what's heavy for her? How do you do that? You can't just test. By the way, when it says 1 RM, that means 1 repetition maximum. And that's in science, in research, how strength capacity is measured. It's really a faulty method, but that's what the standard is. Can't you do that in many populations? So even for older populations, 1 RM testing is still a recommendation, just so big. 70-year-old client walks into me, I don't want to test them, that's too much, it's stressful, right? I don't have the mechanics, I can't. So I have another screen there that is basically a calculation, an estimation of the 1 RM, which is a much safer thing to do. In fact, so how do we gauge intensity in lifting that? So we gauge it by asking them, and those who train with me know, I often ask on a scale from 1 to 10. How heavy was that for you? That's a subjective measure. We'll do that later too. I want you to tell me how heavy something is. And then you guys watch that person lifting and tell me, is that really an 8, how she moved, right? So you'll see there's quite a discrepancy between subjective and objective measuring. So that's the RPE method, asking, how heavy was that for you? Then we need to watch 2 things. Are they making any signs of an effort? Are they making the face? Are they going, they're starting to make sound. And that's another indication. Okay, now we're actually starts to get heavier. And lastly, is the movement starting to slow down? Because if they keep moving, this is not 5 and 6, this is a 4, right? If there's no, so this is the 3 things by which you can measure and determine intensity. And then talk about this in the screen, the next screen. You can see repetitions percent using a linear periodization model. Allison is exactly this type of periodization. So you go through more repetitions, less slow per block. These blocks he has in there 24 weeks is short. Blocks are usually in science we usually use 6 weeks or so. Athletic training is really by season, right? There's off season, there's on season, that's what that is dictated by. It was in you have it? Is it this one? No, one before that one. 4 people. This one. No, this one. Okay. It says general resistance training program design guidelines. Have it? Yeah, it's really good. No, I was like,
Yeah.
sorry, I was like, oh my god, but it's there, right? I realized there's one page duplicated, right? Yeah, sorry, I just noticed that. So this would be an example of periodization. For a couple of weeks, you do a certain rep range, a certain load, and then you change it for a couple of weeks. So you keep the same blocks, just increasing the load slowly within those weeks. Depending on what your goal is, right? This is the rep ranges he has there, 12 to 15, and then going down to like 5 or 8. It's really more general population hypertrophy, general population, tapping into maximum strength a little bit, which is important, right? But with general populations, we don't do much super heavy 1 repetition, 2 repetition. That's just really taxing for the joints, right? Unless you're curious, like Jess, and she just did one arm testing, or whatever.
Yeah,
175, right?
Yeah, you try to get it.
So order of exercise, that's an important part. Melissa, you had a question about that. In general, you do the things that are most important. If you don't have much time, you do what you want to get better at. That's what you do first. You do your more compound exercises first, that use most muscles, compound squats, deadlifts, most fatiguing the whole system. You do that first. You don't start with isolating exercise. You go for power, if you do any power plyometric training, important part, too much for this short session, but your plyos, your jumps, your quick strength, you do that first, because that's depleted, right, quickly. You do your large muscle group to small muscle group exercise first. You do your compound, single to compound exercises, a lot of back squats, deadlifts, that will use a lot of muscles versus single muscle group. And complex single. Does that make sense? Now, choice of exercises, they should really, particularly for a general population, you should really choose first and foremost exercises that work around the main movement patterns, just because they are most effective in strength training. So that means you have your deadlift, which is your hip dominant, your hinge. It works the whole back component, it works the posterior chain a lot. A knee dominant movement, which is the squat variation, and there are so many different variations, right? Today we'll only do the back squat, but if the client walks in, I test them. What does that squat look like? Then, well, oh my God, what should I do with that person? Okay, let's go there next. Okay, so squatting is not easy. Some people have a very hard time squatting. Some people have a very hard time hinging. It's not only because they don't understand it, because no, sometimes the tissues are just very tight and have a hard time to hinge and open the capsule in the back. Right? So there are many variations, but the main pattern, I think that helps me always, the blueprint, right? A hinge, a squat, and then we pick the variations in between. Then a upper body, a horizontal push, a horizontal pull covers a lot of ground. Can we go overhead pushing? I don't really do that early on, but overhead pulling always is great, right? So that helps. And then if there is time, we work on things that we notice are weaker. That we notice this and this hurts, kind of like, okay, let's do some rotator cuff exercises that discomfort with the shoulder. This is where I do my postural stuff, right? This is called accessories or assistant moves. That makes sense. This is how those bigger muscle groups to smaller muscle groups. Before the accessory moves that deal with posture, injury, previous injury, or certain weaknesses, I also do unilateral lower body work, your lunges. They're great to even out, inconsistencies left and right. Oftentimes, like one side is much weaker than the other, so we hammer that with going weak, strong, weak. Lunges, side lunges, split squats, Bulgarians. This is really, really getting you stronger for the main lifts too. If one side is weaker and you make that catch up with the other side, your main lift will improve, right? Okay, so this is a really important overall slide to look at. The next slide talks about our RPE method that I just talked about too. What's important, how to establish intensity in lifting. Ask them RPE, rate of perceived exertion. How hard was that for you on a scale from 1 to 10? Look at how they move. How smooth is it? Do they grow? Do they make a sound? and does the movement slow down. Now, on the next slide shows NSCA on the top left. This is a training load chart that I talked about. So you can see here, the top left is at 100%. So let's say someone is able to do a lift with 100 pounds, and that's their maximum lift. If they did a second rep, they would fail. Okay? Let's say they do a squat with 100 pounds. They do it successfully one time. Then you can calculate, if you go first column 100%, one rep, then you can calculate from there, what is their 10 repetition rate? What should that be? So you zoom over to the right to 10, and you can see that that person should be able to do 10 repetitions at 67.5. Right? Does that make sense? So likewise, when I have someone older come in, I have them do working up to 8 reps of something, a squat, let's say. And let's say they can squat 104 pounds. And then I want to estimate, because that's used in scientific articles often, I want to say, how good is that even for that age population? How strong is this person? So that person, if I now go the other way, the 1 RM that's estimated, according to this formula, estimated 1 RM is 130. Right? So this is just like a tool that is based on scientific studies evaluating capabilities of certain populations. Now this is most reliable in compound moves. You can't really use it well for bicep curls or bigger moves. This is also where this matters. Does that make sense? So this is a tool. Yeah, right. So yeah. And the last slide is a simple curve periodization. So that would be, for instance, okay, we have a block where we determine the squat should be really focused on. So we're starting with a bit of a greater rep range than say 8 reps. Because this is about maximum strength now, right? So I want to prepare for getting stronger at few repetitions or even compete. So I want to get stronger. So I start with 5 sets and 8 reps, and the 70% is based on your 1 RM. The chart beforehand, right? So 5 sets of 8 reps. Next time I'm squatting, I'm going up in the weight, but down in the reps. Right? So the stimulus is increasing. I'm going heavier, but I'm taking down the reps. And I'm slowly, week by week, moving more and more into this 5 rep range until all reps are 5. And that would be then week number, that's you. Week number, thank you, 7. In between week 6, there is another test. Checking the 1 RM if the 5 weeks before that have increased our 1 RM. And then the numbers are already a bit higher to start out with. So this is how you would linearly, really simply periodize something. Just really modifying the main lift load so that it hopes on week 18 when you test again that your 1 RM is up. And that's it. That's the theory. Let's move. I don't want to ask if you have any questions. Yes. Let's keep the questions for the end unless you feel it's really burning and I need to know the how. Just have so much. I also, guys, I want to squat with you. I want to bench press with you. I want to deadlift with you. I want to show you row variations and exercises. And also, I want to show you what you can do in the Pilates studio that really feeds into strength. Okay? So, 1 minute. Yeah. To quickly song. Hi, Tony.
Oh, I mean, this is fun.
She is you.
It's a shit team.
No, she doesn't see you, but she is you.
Hey, Tuzi, are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, I'm wondering what we should do here. Should we stop the recording for?
No.
You want to record how I carry this down?
Yeah, it has to continue. I don't wanna, or actually, yeah, we can stop it.
The recording we stop. Yes, that makes sense.
That means.
Pause.
Class is often because people have here with like shit like this and for lifting. These are just the old, what's it, orange shoes on class. Are very interesting, that shit, you know, and then you really wanna feel it around, so that should be really, it's kind of like not a very marshmallowy type shoe. The benches are for you guys, we put them here actually, I think we put, I think of some, as they said. That's it. Not comfortable, we only need to be here for some time. You know, just like the cashews, rather than that ball to stick on, probably you need to, but you know, well, you have more boxes back there. How heavy are you? No, just general, I don't, I don't. 50. Oh, you know, my left. So.
Speak as loud as you can.
Can you hear me, Jody?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me here? As well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so. Barbell, there are two types. One is 15 kilograms or 33 pounds. I usually say 35. Easier. Or 20 kilograms, aka when we 45 pounds. This is a little skinnier. This is considered a women's bar. For people who don't like that, it's lighter and it's, you know, so I like to look over it. Like 20 kilograms. And you can see this empty one already what we consider in Pilates studio, right? I mean, this one is now 35 pounds, so that would be 4 kettlebells of 7.5 pounds. The advantage of barbells like this, you don't have to have another system because what the failing part in that is often are you have a grip strength. As heavy as you need to tax your body. Well, this is what barbells are coming on your back, or you can grab them more easily than that. So for the squat, there are two things in lifting that are important, and that I have not learned in any study. I've only learned it because I was trained in powerlifting. And the powerlifting body. And that's the concept of whole body tension. So we need to. There's even a physiological reason for that. Again, sorry, but I like to refer to science. If muscle fibers. The inside of the muscle fiber are filaments, and they are proteins that slide over each other and they slide away from each other. And the muscle contracts, that's how the muscle does well, contracts. So if the filaments are just loosely attached and you start to lift, they have to contract and start to slide. Right? But if you already pre-contract your muscles, so the chemical processes that makes these filaments already ready to go, that's much more efficient. They don't have to press that, it's already on the breath. These two time, and it all goes on. This is the structure I talked about. There's always something happening here. Always a construction of steel that water coming out. So it's more efficient, and also if you pre-engage your body, to tighten your whole body from here down, it's safer. Right? There's no moment of laxity of the system anywhere. And this is what I learned from Howard. It's very difficult to do for normal people, right? It's easy to do it like briefly, and then you have to do some other steps for most people that get less again. Okay? So we want to start out tight and stay up. And in deadlifting, that has a different name here. So you're just calling it tighten your body, right? So Melissa is stepping close to the barbell, turn around. Actually, always facing in. You never walk the barbell out of the rack. Then it's, imagine you do your lifts and then you're really fatigued and then you have to see where are the hooks. No one, you just want to do what you need to do and go in and get rid of the weight. So important is there is the soft part of the barbell, and there is a more you call this a rougher part of the barbell. And this is so that you can feel where the center of it. It's not an indication where your hands have to be, just an indication where the center of the barbell is. So you can move the thumb away. I don't really give indications where the hands are yet. So you put the barbell, go under the barbell, and put it not on your C7 over here, the base of the neck, but on the soft part here that's called the top of the scapula. Right? That will be your super straight, above the ridge of the scapula. On that muscle here, on the upper track. Right? So below the bone. Then what she does, sorry, you stay for me for a moment. You straighten your wrists. You try to make your wrists really straight. Now, squeeze your elbows towards each other. Can you do that? So this action of squeezing the elbows in is creating this muscular shelf here too. So the barbell has to sit on muscle. And the upper body has to be engaged. Keep squeezing the elbows in. Now, step out of the table. The next thing we'll do in the upper body is establish with bracing. So she's taking an inhale, three-dimensionally ideally, holding the breath and stepping out of and standing the barbell up. Next thing you'll do, and people get us off get they go like 40, 24. You want to take maximally 3 steps. You unrack it, get steady. You go 1 step, another step, and the third in case you need to even out your feet. So 3 steps maximum. So make sure your elbows are tucked in. Yeah, long wrists. Good. Stand it up and get steady. Good. Now keep pressing your barbell. Take note. Sorry, Marissa, don't squat yet. You're not holding the barbell. On the contrary, you're pressing it into you, onto you. There is, if you fatigue on the bottom, if the brain feels that pressure downward, it actually pulls the body. I did that once and I thought I would feel it. I pushed it down and it just out. It helped me so much. So pushing down. Now take an inhale and hold the breath, and then you walk down. Knees forward, hips back. Good. Exhale on the top. Repeat. Inhale, brace. Deep breaths. So what I'm always looking for is this a squat that uses hips? You actually do a lot of core components in squats. So is the weight in the heels on the body? Does she have the weight, does she shift in the feet a lot, or is she able to keep the weight outside and on the heels? I usually walk around and walk like that now, look how centered is this here? Right, is she able to stay tight? Now, before she even moved, I should have put her to tense her legs. I didn't do that. Usually I do that. So the whole body starts out at the really same age. For strength training, we have something like core contraction. Say that, yeah. Okay, yeah, that hard. So core contraction is where the whole body is wrapped in muscle or limb, right? You want to core contract the quad and the hamstring at the same time. It's not easy to do without actually moving. Right, but you want to start out at that. How did that look? How did that, how did you know? Melissa knows on the spot. She trains with so it looked like a office on the spot. Some people very hinging squats, you will see that, right? They have to lean forward a lot. It has to do with that leg. You have very long feet. You can't sit as low as you. If I'm very hard time squatting, then you do that. How difficult is that look for you? That always is. Yeah, okay. So that's acting on your side. Another one is down. Who's laughing about it? It's coming. Is it happy? No, it's not. Oh, I still alive. Yeah.
So how do you know you're in a good form without somebody?
Without what? Somebody looking at it. I mean, like, if you have a coach, people build them out. All the time, looking at the person, like, analyze and looking, analyze. And not feeling like that's right. I mean, they do also. And analyze. I do that all the time. And it looks good, you're like, that's not that, you know, it's really surprising what to see. And you all have good eyes for me, right? See what the sign is, the balance. I know the word is still where do you feel the most? You want to do it? Not be hard. Because you have some kind of time off. So this is, you feel this everywhere. You work, you know, you're trying to stay right? Maximally problem stabilize us. You have squash the lower body. Lots of blocks, lots of rooms, lots of deep adductors. Why didn't you that? That's not cardio. She said, no. But it makes you a feed. Then you say, I have bread. That's not good. That's no. Yeah, low level cardio is your heart rate and 40 to 60 percent of the maximum rate. When you are how old? Almost 45 20, so that formula that calculates the maximum. 220 minus 45. Let's say 220 minus the English. That's your estimated maximum output. Most of your devices are basically. So your maximum heart rate, that means this is how quickly the heart works, generalize, and so. So that is 220 minus 45 is 175. That's your maximum. Now, you say the aerobic, so take your heart rate now. 175 is your max. Low intensity exercise is approximately, let's say, 50%. 50% of 175 is 8.5, 87 and over. If you measure your heart rate, you have, is it 87? But just to show you what your heart rate is, you know, I don't think, but even if it was this up, it needs for 1 minute. One to keep it out. If you do, that's what the graph earlier explained. If you do low level, low intensity exercise, that's like so what you do, you don't have more. But this is also not what we. Let's see what your heart rate is after the 5 rounds.
So I'm 75 right now. 76.
You what?
76.
Said what 87 was 90. So is your heart rate getting to 90 after 5 rounds? If you go, yeah, but then you have to do this for like half an hour.
And stay forward to the guest. You're not visible.
Actually, I'm afraid to go yours. You see? So your upper back deck, yep. Stay here, tighten your upper back, use your elbows together. You want to raise and pre-engage the leg. Good. So now you stay. Yeah, there you go. Make sure you face before you big inhale. Inhale, you hold the breath. Holds the breath, exit. You want to stay tight, so on the whole and keep the air in you on the full range. Right breath, okay? So let's not go into the aerobically, even if it's for 100, you have to do this for like, yeah, you have to do this for usually 122. You need to do some cardio, girl. So that's a quick, that's the next one is yeah, so see. If she was more trained, probably not quite know how that happened. So, any questions on this one? You good to try it? Try it. Oh, never age, it's never on.
Take the weight off?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I'm no idea. One. So before I, you know, I usually. So I don't start with this one. I want to see how she, you know, not even, we'll not go around now and make this whole thing quiet scenario. I would usually start with the links, you know, spot there and talk, observe and see, you know, then maybe take it something else. But for you, let's just go your flow. So how can you have far out? And then take a breath. But we're not focusing on powerlifting competition level that yet, right? So that's so what you often see, so she looks balanced, she looks like she can handle a weight on her back, that's what I would. There's something to be for sure, but she's not someone people who walk in sometimes and they squat to anything, literally like this. Can't go nowhere. That has to do, there's something along the chain that it's so small and sometimes it has to do with pelvic, being already in a real pelvic tilt, hip mobility. How much, and this is something that I think is not covered in our terminology at all, how much would patients say this? Do they have Because there is a lot of this, and we come down, the externally rotating will be much slightly, then at 90 degrees, there is more movement, right? The rotation is there. If it's not available, we're getting this from someplace else, in that case, kind of makes sense to me. Or you internally rotate, look at your maximum internally, and then it's external rotation again as the overall comes on there. For that rotation. Okay. So put your thumbs where the soft part means the rough part on each side. Yeah, and just feel where that is. See. Just feel soft, roughly. That's your man. Don't put your hands necessarily there, just put your thumbs there, then you know it. You can change that, but this is where the center is. Now your hands are centered, and then you go on the barbell. That's how happy you are when you look. Yeah, exactly. This is where the barbell is. Watch it. Is it on muscle? Okay, now, keep your wrists straight. Squeeze your shoulders, the elbows together. Just balance your shoulder to you. Okay. Good? Okay. Now, stand up the weight. Good, let it get steady. So just falling back. So it's higher. Well, same height, but overall a little too. On each side. Okay, now drop the power to you. Just by one. Yeah. Hands in your arms. Good. Hands in your legs. Good. Now take a big inhale. And spot. Spot. Wait and heel. Good. And back up. Exhale on the top. You okay? Good. Again, inhale. Yeah, inhale, hold the breath. Like this, inhale into my head. Okay.
No, it's good.
It's right. It's fun. Is it heavy? Oh,
I mean, it is, but it's.
nice. Action here. Keep the pain engagement. Inhale. Again. Yeah, there you go. Keep that. You do 5 people? You mean 5 more? Oh, 5 more. So I think you have 1 more. Oh, yeah. Good. Good. Then you walk it. Yay. Well, back. Yeah. Any questions on the squat?
Yeah, so I did a parallel, but I think people, and you sometimes believe. Like this,
No, I don't. Point out that you, sometimes people are told they have to squat with their fist and pointing forward. I usually let themselves around. The tighter someone's hips are, the more space they need in the feet, and the more rotation. Right? But I let that usually appear themselves around. You know, you don't have to squat with the feet. Oh, I told that's why I'm pointing it out and why you choose it. I cannot squat. So shoulder, I say your feet shoulder wide and then whatever the end up with. And if it's here, I tell them you don't have to do that. I think that's best. You know what? Good. Because like here works a little different than the boots. I'm not that much. I have studies, but I don't want to. I'm shutting myself on because I couldn't. Yeah.
so I mark for the signs of the hip, if your approach is because of the signs of the hips, if you do that.
You want to go to the whole level, just go into here, right? Just those colors. Yeah. Not too much. Like just like I didn't want to start. No. I mean, we really, we need to get this stable first, confident, and then, I mean, we definitely through our plan, definitely are. Question, right? It wasn't, always stimulus going on podcast. What's the time now? I wonder if we should continue with the lectures. Yeah. And then we'll do some practice time, we'll put all of this together and everybody can do it. For some time, it's not great how this are each year. So let's do, let's go. So I do the bench. Right. Yeah. The next compound move is a horizontal off. I'm not interested in that. Yeah, boy. You wanna,
Is that even in here?
come on, whether it's the bottom. Why don't you come up a little over there? Come on the corner, because I want you guys also to, yeah, volunteer, okay? Volunteer. No, you, I'm gonna say, all right. So. The barbell is kind of centered, right?
It's hard to see.
It's hard to see.
Yeah.
So she is now, she's looking at the lights are really annoying, so that's why you really fail. I show them where the soft part is and the rough part. Because she's looking at that way. We like to look how I feel. So I show her where centered is, that means the hands you. Good. We're starting all the way at the end of the J-hooks here, and there, Torina's eyes should be under the barbell. Because if she is too far back, she wants to lift, she's gonna don't lay yet, she's gonna hit. She's gonna hit the J-hooks, the heels, right? So. One thing that's important about deadlifting, bench pressing, is the importance of the lats. You may see how power lifters and Carolina does that. She is she is arching her back. In powerlifting, that is important because they are competing. And by arching the back, they're shortening the movement part. Right? One thing. Much less effort if you have to move the bar only here. Versus to when you flatten your back. Versus here, so we move it, we have to move it an inch or two less. That's one reason. The other thing that's important is in this activity, the lats are stabilizing the shoulder girdle the most when the thoracic area is in extension. So this is not so much about the lower back arching, it should be relaxed a little bit.
Yeah, but
Relax the shoulder. You want to do this from here. And that helps engage the lats as she moves. Now keep this position and bring up the arms up without the barbell here. Now, as you can lift and the barbell down, you want us to pull the barbell down. Imagine you have one. Pull my hands through you. Pull, and back up. Keep it, put straight arms. So she wants to have this isometric the whole time. We stabilize the shoulder. That's why powerlifters arch. Right? Now, some people are like, my God, is a weird or back is people don't know back from that, no lower on that. Should be safe to the arch back. If people don't know, well, that's exactly all, it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine to keep the back flat, making sure that there's a little sternal lift, just to let the lats get into. Now let's extrapolate from here, and you can also utilize that concept of push-ups, right? So you want to re-engage as many muscles in the push-up to make that better. So have you ever tried to pull up with your legs engaged? It didn't help. Okay. So choose your, choose your extension here. Don't make it an excessive low back one, but make sure this lifts. Good. Move a little bit more, this hand is closer. Move it away or just equalize that. This one? Oh, yeah, that was better. Good. You start out with about some distance away from the soft part. Good. Carolina knows how to lift, so she should lift wider. More experienced lifters usually go wider. Because also it decreases the movement path because the barbell will start from lower. But you're also able to recruit more chest from that muscle, which are the big the chest is the big leader. So the more in you are, the more out, the more out you are, the more you use the bigger shoulder from the chest. So now in comparison to Pilates, we always do push-ups like here. It's very hard to do because they're so bicep tricep. You know, heavy. Okay, that's good. Sorry about that. So unrack the bar, stabilize it. Good. Here she wants to pay attention to having not necessarily retract the shoulder blades a lot, but having the arm bones, upper arm bones on the bench. Some people protract for me, or protract. The protract means we call that so reach to the ceiling. Yes. Right. So this is really unstable. You bring your shoulders down. Good. Okay. Now, you're pre-engaging the upper body by thinking of breaking that line up. I want to see muscle power in now, okay? Good. Now, keep your feet flat if you can, so you can push better with your feet. Whole body eventually will become part of that. Now take an inhale, keep the tension by breaking the bar in half, and pull the bar to the base of your chest. And hold the breath, exhale on the top. 5 times. So here you want to watch out for control throughout, but they're not bouncing off of the chest. You want to in a lift in general, regardless what lift it is, the movement path ideally is the same. Wow, look at that. I thought it was
Like it just is right. Yes.
so the movement path should be very repetitive, one on top of the other. Right? And you'll see the more beginner approach, the more this will something. Like this, something like this,
So are the feet supposed to be flat? Or can
Yeah, they have all kinds of sport that I'm not, at powerlifting. You have more pushing quality, people prefer flat versus toes. I like flat is better. Carolina has toes like so better. Like, yeah.
You like,
But I usually, I'm looking for, can she actually convert to the lower body? That's
Yeah.
the most important. Yeah, so she likes it better, totally fine, but eventually it becomes important to push and pull with the feet. That energy can transfer through the transforms and helps in me.
so it doesn't.
Doesn't help a lot, no, but that little bit that you may need that. Is, it does help.
Right.
So I missed the part that you about, like what's the difference? Who said something was missing?
Okay, reach medium engagement and also the lat contract. Lat, the lat is big. In lifting, the lat is the muscle everybody always talks about. You want to have strong lats, you want to have a strong back. So the lat is basically the muscle, this guy, here, the back of your armpit. Right, so in back squatting, deadlifting, we need it to be strong because it stabilizes the back. In bench pressing, we want it to be helping us to stabilize the shoulder blade. And so that is an important muscle, and it does stabilize more, it has great capacity to stabilize if you're in a thoracic extension, that's what I said. And in a push-up, you don't just want to go this way, you want to go engage the legs in the whole time to help generate some force from the back.
Elbows down.
Well, usually in lifting a push-up, a regular push-up is more with the elbows to the down. Like I said, for the same reason. Elbows down is very arm dominant. The arms are weak. The back is strong. The chest is strong. But about 40 should basically look like an arrow from the back and it's a push-up with the hands wider too. So the Pilates push-ups are hard to do because they're so arm dominant. Any questions on the bench press? So why do we bench press? You know, what is the benefit of the bench press versus push-ups? We can just really modify the weight much better. The push-ups your body weight, right? Or we lift up on inclines to decrease your body weight, but it's, you know, it really depends on what incline level you have. Here you can just put 2.5 pounds on each side to increase the strength. So you have more gradual possibility for add strength more gradually. That's for the bench press. Sorry, you're not going to max out Carolina. Huh? Yeah. So I want to go over tightness and that's done. That's done. So in order to deadlift, we have to change things a bit because we need floor space. We don't want to be in a rack for deadlift. So we need to change things. Let's deadlift here. Yeah. I need a volunteer. You're next, and then we. Oh,
I did it once in 90 pounds.
so please, Barbara, please take your shoes off. But the deadlift, I always, you know, deadlift is very simple. We want to be very grounded. It's a way to take regular sleep. We need to add some weight to that because, wait a moment, leave it. Can you get 210 of it? Because a conventional deadlift starts on the floor. Right, so there's another deadlift variation. Where you hold it and you hold it on the back. In a Romanian deadlift, I can get out there. In a Romanian deadlift, the weakest link is the grip. And the grip determines how much we can move. Now, if we start from the floor, we're always going back to the floor, it's much more low. That makes sense? Did you guys hear what I said? The difference between Romanian deadlifts and conventional? It's fine, you can just squeeze it. It's broken. So that said, I'm using plate already because I don't want the weight, I don't want her to come bring the barbell to the floor every time because that's very, 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 very low. So the weights here serves and it stays on the floor. That makes sense. So have you deadlifted before?
Yes, but I don't know like this, but I'll do my best.
This is not you. So, but show me, turn to the side. Let's just look at the hinge.
I struggle with the hinge because I like to either arch or. Yeah, no, I'm told I do it wrong all the time.
This one's you. Oh, yeah. Do a slow motion one and don't go so far down. Slow, 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 slow. So first of all, unlock your knees. Yes. And now slow motion. Yeah, okay. And the next one,
That enough, Ben?
You just, I know what people will told you, you have a little bit of an initiation to the low back.
I struggle with moving from here.
Yeah. I wouldn't say struggle, but this is, I'm sure this will helps also, but you wanna have a certain starting point on it, because otherwise we have to go back.
I tend to default to either throwing or hard to say.
Yeah, so what Barbara is talking about, so make sure that saw a little bit of movement and go back. Right, so the indication does not purely come from these guys, the deep muscles, like sort of there with groups of but she borrowed a little bit of an initiation from the back. But it was really minor. I mean, I wouldn't max lift with you, but I even over. So it's something like that. Yeah, so in training, we really don't really work out the joints too much. And in deadlifting particularly, or in hinging, when we do it, well, maybe really from the top, the straighter your legs are, the less traffic you have in the hamstrings. So, he put the barbell somewhere where it doesn't move. I know it's kind of OCD challenging to feel like it wants to go, but the floor is so uneven here. When it was that. Yeah, just leave it there. Put that on hold it, and then you're gonna put yourself. Okay, put it across the strip. On the other side of it. Yeah, see how the landscape goes there. That's good, nice. So now center yourself in front of the barbell, and this is the lift that requires the most focus. With degree just knows, right? Degree, that's all. So I would like for us to learn what pulling the slack is. So bend over, put your hands on the bar, come closer first, so just an inch away. Inch. Yes, good. Now bend over, hold it. Good. Now don't pull the barbell up until they tell you, not at all. But try to tense the barbell up until you hear it. There you go. If you hear that, relax it. Yes, do that a few times. So, yeah, don't lift it up. Keep your plate from. I know it's really light. You feel it now, right? So this click is where the barbell tenses up against inside of the thing, right? So that's already. We want that. We want to hear that click, and we only want to hear it once. Walk again. So that's the first step. As you hear the click, you want to re-engage your legs. Yeah. Make sure your hands are even, the left side is rolled out. That's good. So immediately it tenses the barbell against the plates, but it also should tense. Signal for her to tense her legs, engage your legs. Good. And now the next step, I leave the breath out for now. Sorry, Barbara, if I'm going to have to stay there. So letting the breath out. This is the slack, not this target. The next step, we want to get the barbell so close to us that it touches the shins. So using your lats, pull the barbell into your shins. We call that the wedging step. You're wedging your body as closely to the barbell as you can. At the same time, now lift your chest up, Barbara. I want to see that from the side. Lift your chest up more. Don't lift the barbell up. Not loud until I tell you. Lift your chest up more. Nice. And relax. Stand up. So the wedge, the difference between when it looks like out, like everything's tight. Now we want to hold the barbell close and lifting the chest up. Right? So my hips didn't really move, but I extended. At the same time, the lats stabilized and pull the barbell into the legs. There's a difference between wedging like this and wedging like this. So everything kind of shifts back. We want A, not B. We want the extension. So again, this time with a breath. Inhale. Your hands outside of your legs. Yeah, inhale, come down, there. Good. Pull the slack. Can we hear it? Yes. Keep that tense, your hold. Nice. Now pull the barbell into you. Keep your down. Lift your chest up. It's small. You have a wedge into the more chest, make this more chest. Pull it into you. Now brace, pull. Keep it close to you, lower it down. And the down is like down. Up is the draw. Down is, yeah, just don't throw it away. Again, pull the slack out of the barbell, out of your system, wedge, chest up, pull it into you, inhale, and come. Keep it close to you, okay? On the down, you can just drop it. On the up, I want you to feel it. How powerlifters have really beaten up shins. Because, I mean, physics, the closer the barbell is to your center of gravity, the easier it is. The more it travels away with a heavy loaded inch, and it really becomes out of you. That's great bar. So exhale down, inhale, find the slack, everything tight, wedge, chest, raise, pull. And down. Again, item, chest up more. Yeah. Up, go. Close. Close here. And down. One more time. Inhale. Hold the breath. Raise, chest. Nice. And lower. Good. So as a guideline, when you're in the step of the wedge, come down and don't pull it up and show me the slack of the wedge. Wedge. So her armpits, you want to come around to the side for a second. The armpit should be over the barbell. Yeah, it's not her shoulders. Arm straight. So that is in relation with the hips. The more she comes back here because she feels more comfortable that way, the more quads this is. The less she uses this, which we want, right? So you want to have the armpits, not shoulders over there. And that has to do with loading the hips. Yeah. It's a lot harder, but once you lift it, it is shooting. All right, it's a lot harder to set up. But good. Any questions about the deadlift? Like I said, it's conventional deadlifting, sumo deadlifting, that different types. This are not types. That's the most like brain power. But you wanna be safe. Efficient. Any questions on that? So the next step would be 10 more. Good question. For me, I look like it probably feels not asking for it, just no, but it has to do with what did I see? What did we see? What did we like? If someone tells me this is an 8, that would be 30. I'm thinking like, yeah, we need to progressively get to I have all these feedback for I don't know, okay, and I don't really know much. It's not so. So it's about 55, 45. So how have you that? It's still a it wasn't that hard, but I think we gotta step up. I really like that. This is the lift, the human body can lift the most weight lift, right? So I usually don't go into that. So you go 10, you put 10 on each side, and then it's doable. Not only that, it's really is really happen. Check out just one time. But I know you like to say that we have to listen very important. So far, this is what powerlifters find. I so look at moving parts. I make challenges. I shoulder flag. I brace. I wedge. And it's like all right because all. So when the bar is heavier, this bar is heavier than a tiny little bit, that's already, you don't have to pull that off the floor, it's already a tight system, right, and that's already, you know. The bar's already away from the floor with that thing. I'm always using like, using any shoes like that, but this is how you refine it. Any questions on the slack and the wedge? Okay, what time is it? Already, wow, no practice time, but now I'm on time, on schedule. So. That's.
It's not about the exercise itself, but more about overall health and mindfulness, sharing relations with consulting. That's now.
I know, it's like a, this is a potential rabbit hole, and I wanna get to all of it's that, so. Let's do. Let's go, sign we should. So then you go through and that's 15 minutes of, you leave this bottle out, so. Who can you? Well,
Yeah,
you
I cannot shoot like shoot, like,
no, no way. Looks fast. You don't have to stay with it. The first time, I'll be like, whoever lives first, I would leave it. But so we have a bench, we have a deadlift station here, we have squat racks there. Let's practice the deadlift. The bench press and the squats, and then have the core station. 8 people each. Unless, you know, is anyone interested in doing something specific? Who's interested in squatting? More people who want to squat. Yeah, okay, so you there, someone join Allison. I'll join. 2 other people, who want to squat over there.
We're gonna get another bar for that.
Who wants to squat?
Let me try this.
Yeah?
You
You did the squat, you wanna do that? Well, that was an bench pressing.
I want to.
What do you wanna do? I don't do it. Okay, so to walk over Vivian.
I mean, I can't look at you. Okay, so I want. All right. Here, Charlotte, here, I don't know. All right, we're gonna go over it. And I don't. I know. When you, oh, what should we?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know, like, what's on that.
That's like.
I don't know why. The measures, like, you're looking, anything else,
Around the video, crazy, I'm looking at people.
I also like that you put lot kind of involved. So I think I get that. And then you want to. Yes, yes, yes.
So these are barbells like this, yeah. And then you can have the pinch of it. Good. I know, people always think it's a little way.
Yeah.
Because, you know. Now put your hands outside of your feet, thanks. And then make sure you have a good hold in there. And now, feel that slack. I'm not giving you, so that was good. And now, hands with barbell, but don't lift it up. Good. Answer? Answer? Yeah, let's see. So you wanna go? Let's look at the lower. You do that, it's very small. Then just get up there. Right, don't pull the thing. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Sorry about that. This is back. How do you? Oh, sorry. Give me this sound. Yeah, got it? Well, please, okay? Good choice. And there you go. Yeah, there you go. Now, engage your legs. Yes, good job. Well, keep it flat. Good. So already, so when you're pulling it, no way. I'm like, woo, now bring your feet forward. Lift your chest up, extend your spine down. It's a little bit more. So really extend to here. Well, we have level plate to do. Back a lot. You track the bottom into you, that's the shape. Yeah. Can you stand here? Go, brace and pull. That's good. Yeah, you spent a long time about that, sorry. What?
No, it's good. I think that's too heavy. Sorry, to like actually like.
It's not.
It is. It's very.
Take a little break. Able to, they just want to keep you. Because you know, this. I said it's really not bad. Okay. Can we go back to the mall? Yeah, I think so too. You know what? Let's go in the right here. Yeah, I mean, let's go there. There we go. So now, it's slack. There you go, that was it. Hold that, stay tight. Hold that, so a little more and more and more. You really extend to there. That's it into you and lower with the hips. Good. You go. Pull. Pull. No one says something. Good. Not that. Put black heads a bit away from the box here.
They have five, so. What you got?
Guys,
Yeah,
so, pull this back, one chest, yeah, arch here, keep it set. There. Now, press the bubble into you, inhale, pull it. Up, the close. Beautiful. That was nice. That's out. And can you do two more? Yeah, good. Pull this back. Yeah, press the bubble and brace and pull. You keeping it so close, I love it. That never happens on our first left. One more, you right? Extend through here, pull it back into you. And back. Nice. The 55 pounds.
Enya,
Hi, Tony.
Nice.
can I ask you a question? Are you you're keeping her an extension through the reps? Like she's not going back down and releasing her extension?
No, exactly.
No. Okay.
She's going back down, but she's trying to optimize it rep by rep again. So she wants to get.
Okay, so she's only not extending at the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly. After that, we want to
Okay.
have the neutral spine and really supportive.
Okay.
So an inch away. Okay. Bend over, put your hands outside of your feet. Good. Let me hear the plate. Don't pull it, just show me. Relax. And put it just a little. That's the thing. Let me try again. Yes. That's it. Relax. Over there. Good. And let it go. Let's not make the same stand up. Let go. I want to give you a break. Oh, Vivian was there for like, you're getting tired there. Your muscles are working, right? So you need that. Yes. Okay. Now pull this back. Good. Now extend through here. Don't sit so low. You wanna have the armpit over the barbell, right? Keep it close. Raise and pull. Up. And lower. Good. You do more? Yeah. So wait a little lower here. So her knees are over the barbell. The knees should be not beyond the arms. They should be at the elbow crease, right? Like that. Yeah, like that. So that uses the hips more. You can see keep it close, pull it into you, and up. See how the slack happened just before she pulled it? That's just yanking it off the ground. You wanna have the slack first, and then tense, and then wedge, okay?
Yeah.
Pull the slack. Yeah, now it's time, not too low with the bottom. Not too low with the bottom. You're making it as two eyes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there you go. Keep it close. Yes, there, Yeah, yeah. So when you feel a good breath, all of a sudden, it feels so easy. That's what gives you the reaction. It's like, oh. Right? Because you're using the right musculature, right? The most, and you are really pre-engaged. Last one, yeah. Yeah, that's the slack. Now keep the hips, just lift, okay.
No,
I was not very good. I was still setting you up.
Oh,
I hope you were tense. Don't talk your butt more. Higher. Yes. Nice. All through, right? Nothing is good. Down is not for work.
Oh, okay.
Eventually.
I don't think I'm getting it.
Okay. Everybody did you move?
I think no,
You're good? Any questions that are related to? I love your body. Let's go into just as a I want to show you how a table works. Right, so I want to go to the table machine and practice a roll. Coming back in.
Okay. Everything one piece. Let's go that way.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep. Now,
Oh, they're all helping. They're all super helpful. I'm good.
Move on to an upper body move. Well, out yet.
Yes.
I will.
You have your phone in the back.
I know.
Okay.
So just tell me your number, where you wanna go, easy. But like, 5 reps. One more. Yeah. 60 is good.
Don't you have the sound? Can you hear something?
Good, thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
So. Need it closer. No, but she's fine, I asked. What they want. So let's come here, because she's lifting, or in this area. So. Like I said before, frontal pulls and vertical pulls are one of the main, components for the upper body. And horizontal pulling is just something that everybody, particularly a version that's really close to your body, should be done. Now, when it comes to shoulder pathology, Overhead motions can be a little tricky. Motions where the arm goes out the side. This is often kind of the called the painful arm. Here to there, here to there. But keeping the arm close to the body, there's not any pathologies in the shoulder that are intolerable. So I throw this in early on right away because we need to get so usually you see this in the gym with the bench. This is different people machine on the floor, which is kind of away from people, but usually that's the bench and the whole situation, but elevated wall. You can see sort of hold the handle and straighten your back, move your butt back and leg. So if you want to start out, anything to the shoulder up in front of the hip, they go stay there. Now the weight starts moving, right? Why? I don't want her to get a break every time when she has her arms straight. So she has that low down on her body. Now she's pulling her elbows sideways, making sure the knees are straight, and controlling it back forward. Here, the demand on the spine is not so people keep doing it right. The demand on the spine is not so terribly great because we did and supported, so the breath doesn't have to be like a whole brace. Brace and not the breath can be an external exertion and an internal turn. We want to make sure the movement looks smooth. Can you do it? How heavy is this for you? Yeah. Can you do a couple of weeks below? Like very like maximum that? The first one is you pull it across the shoulder. That happens often. Then if the arm goes forward, and they elevate the shoulder. Yeah, that's it. They use a lot of body. Exactly. So these we want to keep movement as isolated as the target musculature as move. So that's people. Now let's the dumbbell area and we're doing a roll that you can do in the you have some
Let's do it. Here, I got it.
Where are we going? This
I
way?
have no idea.
You should go first. What tell me this?
oh, let's go. You got this before? You know this way. Mom. You don't have long plates here. So. If you have dumbbells or kettlebells, this is something that you could do in the Pilates studio and covers a lot of ground. But what you do, you're putting them basically in position. You have to put her in a position. Gravity with dumbbells is main force, right? And gravity is vertical, right? So we can't really pull, we don't have the resistance people. So you have to put our body in the path where vertical becomes the movement path. So what you do is you stand sideways, put the left or right knee on the bench. Good. Put your right hand there. Good. Keep the spine straight. Good. Good. Off. That's the setup for a roll. So let this arm this be here. The movement will be cover, parallel, perpendicular to vertical, right? So now the movement becomes a pulling motion when you put the spine stress. Okay. Now it's on there. The movement will be when you have the dumbbell. You fold the dumbbell, you hold it away back towards your side, and back up. So before you move, right? You're doing that already, right? So we call this tapping the shoulder. You don't want to work out of joint, like we say, it's Pilates, right? You want to default, I thought it was gonna be. But you like still tapping the shoulder, but rather than starting here, right, you wanna engage. It doesn't necessarily mean contracting the shoulder blade, it just means to engage its capital muscles and right? There should actually have that nice. Now pull your elbow with the increase. Yeah, I'm pulling up. But keep the elbow a little closer. What she does really well, that usually doesn't happen on the first round. Go to little bit almost in like a J-line motion, right? That's really what we want, because we want to maximize the engagement. Can you feel the feeling now? Not really? So hold it, pull it up, hold it. Slowly hold it. Let's spin it. Slowly hold it. Right? So now, I'll be close. If they don't feel it in the left, and you put the elbow closer to the body. Because that's what the left does, right? It pulls the arm, flexion and abduction. Is it? Okay. How long is that? Okay. Okay. That's great to say. Yeah. I get that often, but like, how old is that lady? How old is the add load? What, right? Yeah, that's the other side. What is it? What is it? So I don't wanna go terribly heavy, I don't know if you saw it, but maybe the path doing this was very fun. That's right. It was a little swingy and it was a little. Here, they are really low, I don't know. Something. Engagement is already worked. The elbow. Yes. Well, probably, that can move that, they have this price, that's it. Is it? Pull it down. Pull it down. It doesn't matter. Pull it in the side. You feel it now? No. It's fine, but the legs are sometimes difficult to feel because they're really a big muscle, you know? And I do different drills with like bands and barbells that pull away from the body where people feel relax. That's not great, just, yeah, everybody else probably did that. Take it hard. How are you doing? You counting? Oh. Thank you. How many of which we do? In the beginning, like I said, you know, when it comes to the more compound lifts, the intro phase is like this. 5 times. Can't do too many reps in the beginning because you are out of breath, right? The focus, the bigger lifts to about 5 reps. Now, when it comes to the more distant lifts like that, I would start at about 8 to 10 reps. It's not comfortable, right? Because I feel the elbow in, it's comfortable, kind of feel it in the area, kind of don't feel it in the neck, that's always a red flag. Red flag, maybe drawing, you don't want to do that. So, and that's so then Down the right way, like, say, here we have all the picture. There you can see what the system. So I would go over to an edit, slowly load it up based on your data. I would, this is. I would probably give you 20, so, for few rights, just wait, you know. To the left of one. You started what we whole with the arm plan and your shoulder. Yes, to my. Okay, now I would like to go over overhead presses. I usually go. Have more on the pole, have more on the pole. I'm not going over that poles, but now overhead pressing can be really, if someone can do it well, or if someone can do it at all. I mean, very different osteoporotic population. Because any axial load that we give them is just needed. So for instance, the Onero study, so that big Australian study that used three lifts that were super suppressed-related, we loaded a population of 70 to 80-year-olds with barbells and deadlifts, bench presses, overhead presses, squats, and jumping a bar and jumping a bar. The videos are amazing, and that's just successful studies was super great. So they did what I expected with all the I like to do it either first just because it isolates the movement a little better. So can someone come and demo it? Okay. Yeah, so first I look at the range someone has. Because the reason is, you know, people have time and in the shoulders are tight, and it's not rotated capacity. You're looking up into what is the line where you need it to be the most efficient. It's probably not there, right? So I look at how that overhead range looks like. And if it looks like this, then I have to follow it from here. So that means we probably have so let's go, let's do all of these. No way you're straight off forward and back. You can do that on the wall. Hold it here. No, so you're not quite vertical, right? If you went more, would you? Right. That would be more. Right. When you're on your back, then you bring your arms to touch the floor. It might be upset. I'll be putting one down. Do you know how much? Like 15. So I like to start out with the bottom first. More options. So hold it here, bring the arm to about 45 degrees. Make sure that the dumbbell has the same angle, right? So that's from here. And lower it down. So in other words, you don't want to you don't want to have your arms all the way out to the side, but you also don't want to have your arms. This is a good scapular plane range.
You keep your head against the back.
I let them to the side. Some people find this better, some people so you choose against the seat here to isolate it a little bit into the body. Find a movement in his hand, just a little bit of a dip here. That already helps. I mean, we can use that at the beginning as good to isolate it, place it in the right. Hold on. The breath is like a little stable against, so exhaling on the exertion. On that neutral knee, that's kind of a little weak, all right, I'll make it, making like a note of it, like, shoot, back. And if it really is, if she's struggling a little, right? Well, then only 8 strong weeks, so now you'll help out. Really? Yeah. Right, the dumbbell, more. The dumbbell, for it. Well, that is okay. Now she pushed me, oh, and I was taking it.
So hard on this side.
But that is an interesting, by comparison, that dumbbells are great. A single arm one. And then the next step would be to double arm here. Not quite. Double arm, right, and eventually bring it up.
So double arm means that you distribute the same weight, one weight to two, or two, say, 215 pounds.
Meat, yes, yeah. Yeah. And you can also go by that press with the marble. Because the advantage of doing things to bottle axis is on taking and that means you know, right? So balance training and strength training is really only increasing the capacity to have load and doing quite things on the body to lift that's the way you do it. If you do it for rehab, if you do it for a load of control in rehab, great. Strength training, so you want to make it stable so that it goes you up. What time is it?
5.
Cool. So let's go and just move. I can do questions now, and then last bit is the basically what can you do with all this? Right? Unless you guys want more practice, guys. Yeah. You want to do what? Yeah. Okay. So we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we're meeting, yeah, we meet in this area in like 30 minutes. Yes. If someone wants we can go there, but I went to this space, I thought. Nobody should go there, we should have to make sure that the sign is still on. I don't have to talk about push-ups. Because they're great exercise. But in Pilates, when we do the front support, it can come over. In Pilates, when we do the front support, it's so much to walk around. And everybody looks like a mini push-up, right? So in order to get really strong, efficiently, you have to take that joint that you want to get stronger at, before it in motion. So people who give themselves too difficult of a position, it just moves a little bit, they will not never ever. Now, it's more effective to elevate the floor for them versus changing the system and doing something. I mean, it could be better than a mini push-up, but I'd rather choose something in the studio, often the ladder barrel, because that's the highest, yeah, before the wall, and have the push-ups there. So who wants to be my push-up? like part of my own planning session. Okay, personal push-up. So this is the highest level, you know. Put your hands as far apart from both of the can. Good. And your feet can be just like that. They don't have to be together. Bodies together, that makes it even harder. But a good shoulder wide position is good. And we know the drill you say height, center of that, right? Now, you're not letting your arms go close to you, then your arms go slightly out. But as you do that, remember on the bench pressing when I elbows in without looking them. We'll try to do that here too. Push my arm, push my hand. That's all. Good. So if you want, keep your shoulders down, good. And as you come down, press your arms to you without moving them. Good. Can we now come to the videos, but keep everything the same? Yeah, no, the videos, the videos. I want a little like more. Good. Press and touch your nipples to the edge. Go, 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 and press. That's a full range, okay? That's good. Nice, be that. You feel how that elbow activation helps you? Can we do 2 more? Now that's full range, almost. Yeah, so that's an appropriate level for her to work. Right. We keep doing that until you do 10 or 12. And then we go to that level, starting at maybe 3, you know. This is something that's so nice and strengthening and effective, right? So then you can do the Pilates with your too. We don't need a fancy barbell also. A real, well executed, full range shot with great strength and active. You know, not the Pilates way, but more the military way. So you're connected to that. You want to come? 1 or 2? You push that one. You get it. Shots. Oh. Box and right from box and so let's go with the not let's go to this. I want white hands. So now we feel a little bit wider. Good. Then you shift a little bit more forward. Close forward. You know how you use it. Just move feet a little bit more forward. Okay. Yeah, so I want the edge of the box to be at the middle. Right, so that she can wide. If her hands are too high, wait, sorry, stand up, Barbara. I have something to say. So if her hands are and the elbows are too high, and the box goes here, what does she have to do? Upper traps. We want to not use those ones. We want the stability to be below the arm, right? So this is why hands about here, aka the line. Kind of usually it's a little lower than people want to set up. You want it? Shoulder straight out, nice. And as you come down, press my arm, press my hand, and push. But keep that going, even though my hands like off. Are you touching? Go fast. Good. I'm not giving you a red range. I want to see where you're falling apart. So the elbow activation towards the you feel your lats. Nice. It's good. Bar. Go. What was that? 8. Come on, look at that balance. This is where I push up with you. Fingers first. It's good. I'm going. It was 10. No, but that looks good. Don't make it feel good, but don't make it look bad now. Catch and press. Come on, go.
So hard to turn.
So. At least one more. She's moving it a little bit. It's hard. That's it.
I don't go that low.
That's good. You may feel that tomorrow. That was not as progressive. I'm sorry. But it's a smaller movement, right? It's not progressive overload. That was supposed to be like in the walls. What? The wall push-ups are tricky. I wanted to say one other thing though. I asked that. I wanted to say I bookmarked something by hand, but. Oh, it'll pop up then. Elbows, wall push-ups. The range of wall push-ups, because the wall is so vertical, the range is again, it's very limited, so the head is to, you know, that's
So
what
I'm a white person, you don't have that. They don't have modifier, they don't, you know, just. If you, yeah, if you have a modifier.
It's not, I go, I'd like to put a box on. More boxes, a lot of box. But still, just the way it's, the wall is weird. Okay. So I encourage you to please, if you're fine. Okay, let's go. Another simple tool is the TRX. And it doesn't even have to be that brand. That TRX, the original brand is actually really expensive. It starts on like $160 now. There are other suspension trainers, that's what that's called, you know, that are much cheaper. So when it comes to the TRX, they are really nice to them. Maybe I used to love them. They love to do squats and they do different exercise. But when we do squats and lower body exercise with the TRX, what load is that? Is that body weight load? Or is that? It's not much. It's not much at all. It's not even a body weight squat because they are holding on to something. It's deloading the body weight. So you're not loading it, deloading it. So for lower body exercise, it's not really they're really not good at all. Are they now? When it comes to an injured population, yes. Someone with knee issues, someone who teach me how to put it together. But one who has the next right? But for lower body. Lower body, on the other hand, I think this is really great because you put the body in a position where you can do a vertical and horizontal pull, right? You just go perpendicular to the straps and here's your goal. And you can really progress this quite well until the feet are all the way under. Right, so it's a nice challenging roll there. Now, and here, Barbara, is your, where I would go. That's what I'm thinking. So for horizontal pulls, it's great. Horizontal pushes, same thing. Right? Here's your ladder barrel. And there's a very progressive way that you can range where you can have to do the push-ups without having to have a box there. I mean, there is this element of flexibility that we just have with the TRX, but not that, you know, taking away from strength that badly. Okay, so for these two things, I think the TRX is great. That's it.
What about assisted, like when you're trying to work up those pistol squats?
Yeah,
That could be.
that's a good point for single-legged work. You know, if you know, single-legged work is basically you have your body weight on one leg. That's great, but it's may overload all of the stuff. So what Jess is saying, you could hold the handles for support there. It was pistol or gator squat, holding both handles and just overloading your leg that way. That's the gator squat, and this would be a pistol squat. This is more meaningful. I agree, but any lunge or so, I would choose plan.
Would that be similar to doing single leg with the arm spring squat? What is it called in Pilates? Where you do the one leg and
Squats.
No, with the, yeah, or with the arm.
either way.
Okay. So, I mean, the challenge with the arm springs is always standing arm springs is just this arm position. Why do we do this arm position? I find this very, very upper trap intense.
I know.
Maybe the arms are your ribs, like this?
Yeah, but you know, I mean, in the standing arm springs, it classically likes power that's here.
Yeah.
I don't really like this all that, I don't use the body work, I mean, this is much more effective, but then we have a spring, right, the spring moves us, so. But yeah, we could do that, but the spring is extensible, so this is more support to learn movement at hand, but yes.
That's more supportive than.
I sometimes like for them to actually hold the push-up bar. Unsprung. Just lift it up, right? So that's really stable. They can work, single-legged work much better than with the spring situation.
You need to put the.
Did I say push up? I mean,
Yeah.
push through. The push through bar, unsprung, just holding it, because it's so sturdy from the bottom. But that's
Sorry.
yeah, it's more for support, right? To teach single-legged movement. Okay, that's the TRX. Now, another great tool here, tool, is these bands. So they're called pull-up bands. And that's what they were invented for, really. There's a lot of Chinese crap there. You need to watch out. The original manufacturer was Rogue, ROGUE. They can be really kind of, they basically break apart very quickly if you get crap one. But these are the 3 levels that I really, really like. So the skinny ones here, you could do, for instance, if you attach them on a tower, you do things. Let's actually start with a roll. So I don't have a good anchor point here. There you go. Oh yeah. So you can use a tower. Put this around. See if there's tension. There are even handles you can attach to them. So in case people are uncomfortable on their hands. Have them walk into tension and then what else is a little heavy. So the range of motion, as you could see when I just did it, it was too short. I ought to be able, it should be as extensible that I can pull the same range that Linda did the roll. That's why I like the combo of the skinny and one size up and bigger. So you could do something like this. There's your roll. Now, could you do that with a spring? The problem with springs is their extensibility range is very short. Right? Even lighter springs, you can't really pull it that far apart, right? And that's why most people also like the curve, it's usually like not really full range, like springs, that's why these bands are better for. So that's the roll.
When those bands are tighter than regular stretchy bands, regular.
The barrel bands?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll show you. So that's really, I don't even know, but you know, this is, there's a usually for maximally outstretched how much weight they support, that's usually, this is 25 pounds or so.
Oh, I see.
This rows, now we can do lap rows in various positions. Alice is to do one time, right? That was that, like for a regular general population person. It attaches on the top of the tower. And do something like, of course, we have to bring the body into an overhead range, right? So I'm not in the overhead range because that's not high enough, so I need to come forward like that. And then I can pull it down like so. Do my straight arm lat pull. I can also lean forward and do a single arm back arm lat pull. I can use sit them on the tower mat underneath one in each hand, and the more they choke up on it, right, the tighter this gets. And here's your leg pull, pretty like a hinge. So lat pull is another really compound motion for the lats of the upper body because it's your vertical pull. So that's the hardest to mimic in a Pilates studio, right? Because we can't really pull this way anywhere. The springs are not really, I mean, I started doing this and I kind of like that setup on their backs, really far out of the tower, using the rollback bar. So the tower is there, they're all the way at the end of the mat. And then I need to bring them into the line of the pole like this. So the tower is all the way behind me with the rollback bar, the springs, right? And then I pull the bar this way.
How high the bar?
It's really in the lowest arm spring setting.
Lower arm swing?
Lowest arm spring setting.
Very
So it's like attached here. But since it's so far back, you know why it's so far back? Because you don't want to have the spring being super slack, and then they catch. You want to have the springs already unlocked, starting to open the moment they pull. And the rollback springs are really the most extensible ones in the studio. But that's a neat variation in a way, because the spine is so stable, right? So that's the lat pulls. Now, when it comes to abdominal work, I like these bands to do also if that doesn't work well with springs. In strength training, you do a lot, use things like a pull-off exercise, which means something is attached to about sternum height. So if it's too low, bring it down into a half kneeling position. And the pull-off press is basically an anti-rotation exercise, right? It's a really safe way of training someone in stomach 4 without has osteoporosis, for instance, without actually moving their spine, right? So you try to keep tension in the band from here, and then without it pulls me this way now, right? So I'm not letting that happen and getting into a straight arm position. So now this is much harder because the arms are so far away from the body. And I'm not letting this happen. It's called a pull-off press. The same scenario. So this is a core exercise, a oblique exercise. But we also use this to do what's called a chop, also oblique. Coming into, so this is a good angle. So now we're moving the arms and the trunk together in one unit. The hips stay stable. Yeah. I hope you guys too. What comes it's so cold in here? That's the biggest downstairs. Oh, I wear this and something, this is always 68 degrees, but sometimes the draft is so intense. And I'm so cold because I'm not working out. So this would be a chop, a wood chop. We keep it stable. And from there, let the trunk rotate on the hips. Now what would be exercise? Any questions on bands? No. Lower back. For the lower body. Yeah, now we need, see, the lower body has a lot of muscles, big muscles. So we need load. So the only thing we need load. So we can't really, so the most effective or cost effective thing to have is really kettlebells or sandbags. I'm saying that way because we have ordered, Allison ordered sandbags and we haven't filled them up in a year, I think, and I keep like not having time or doing something else, and Allison is kind of really not looking forward to fill them. But sandbags are great because once the sand is in there, it's a safe way of holding something, putting something on their backs to add some load to the lower one. But if that's not there, I mean, kettlebells are pretty affordable. So you can do something like holding the kettlebell in goblet hold and squat. Right? When it gets too easy. Hold the kettlebells like this is called a front rack position and squat. I like to put them in front of so I do these things at the Pilates room, and I like to do it in front of the reformer because I don't like it. Who wants to do a squat? Is it 12? Yeah, 12. I need a volunteer. Okay. So all this stuff was pretty good. This is terrible shape. Kettlebells are supposed to be this solid iron. I don't know who came out with this shape because see, this is always when people want to make something better. The original part is just the best. So, I can say here. So, please take, I think this position works. It's not crazy. So, hold, yeah, see the thing is, yeah, really shape. And maybe I was wrong. Good. So now, take the breath. And tilt it against your strong. Yeah, exactly. So you're not moving. That already needs to lengthen. Now take a breath. Let's walk. Okay. With the breath, stay tight. Good. Yeah, your feet really wide. Just asking. Close. But you were almost there. Yeah. No, I'm just noticing. Some people keep that, but I don't think you do. But unfortunately, Allison's sport was really good. Many people was nasty. Take a breath and put it down. So usually when we put people on people, they don't squat that low. So what I like to do that is put them in front of something and tell them to walk, and this is a great height, and this happens to be the reformer height. I put them in front of the reformer. And then, you know, usually if they just go like that, and they're not really trusting themselves to go low enough to weight in the heels of that weight here. Now, if they know there's something behind them, they go much lower. So for me, this is a great, you know, two-way, just, you know, they go into level. And for them, that's a safety mechanism because most cases, the little kettlebell like this or two as we progress. And they always do a little tap and back up. And this is all borrowed from powerlifting. In powerlifting, we do different squat variations to boxes. We do them to high boxes, emphasizing the upper part of the lifted case. You read this. We're going to very low boxes. You read there. The really annoying method, just knows it, is tempo squats, low box. You basically squatting down. You're not sitting, you touch it and hold it for 3 counts, and it sucks because you have a barbell on your back. And then you dry up. So you stay and really hammer the part of it that you weakest in. And you know, this has really helped me to modify things in other places, right? or someone, it's kind of like a good method also, and if there is nothing else, someone doesn't have to waste. At a tempo, 3 counts down, 3 counts stay, 3 counts up, it sucks. But you know, it's a better stimulus than just lifting up and down with the day. Now. Any questions?
Can you show the deadlift and yeah, with a dumbbell? I mean, with a
If someone wants to do, you need the app.
One second.
I usually just email them that, because they need somebody on some, member, they haven't already filed, so,
Oh, you email the contact?
yeah.
I can also do that.
And yeah. We have a question here.
Oh, yeah.
can you show the deadlift with a kettlebell?
Yeah,
wants to do the deadlift with a kettlebell.
totally, you're amazing, that's next.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Exactly, so, this is actually how I introduce deadlifts to clients, not with the barbell. But with the kettlebell, and these are, when they're this weight, usually a little bit higher. So I introduce them to the slack part, to the wedge part, right? And then lift it like that. Now, when it comes to loading this up, in a Pilates studio, for instance, if you want to do that, you don't have heavy enough kettlebells, you can use 2 of them. Right? So it's not ideal, but it's better than underlifting in my book. But you have to be wide enough. I think it's pretty chunky and it kind of rocks on my legs, but at least, you know, I'm getting something of the stimulus done because we know now we want that. We want an adaptation. We don't want to work on it or cause anything, right? Do you see that, Tundi?
Yes.
Makes sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Let's go on the tower. The bottom, look on the poster. I shall use the mountain tower. This is
Oh,
below and then we can have somewhere.
that's range on. For rows? For rows?
Yeah.
I don't think that extend very much. I think they're too tight. To try it.
I
I'd like around to get some of the, especially lower body exercises. I even thought of doing deadlifts. Awesome. Holding a little more. I really thought that and it's heavy, but it is one weight. It's not scalable. It doesn't feel so bad. And then you can go, well, 40 ones that are a little bit even heavier. How you progress, but it's not ideal. Yeah, there isn't. Yeah. Okay, that was. Do we need one practice time with these bands at all? Does it make sense to you? I hope this was a bit of an inspiration for you to take to the studio.
Do you have those at your studio or do you break your own band?
We have them. I mean, I bought them, but
It's not. A lot more, like, I don't think we have the heavy enough one. Oh.
and they are really legal. Right, so they're not.
So if you're combining Pilates with this,
Good question, I love it.
so you will do the, let's say, mat reformer, and then it will be your C part will be this, or you will do the full session and do this, or you will start with this and then you will do the last.
So, this is really a great question, because I see a lot of people, teachers, that mix things in, like.
Oh, yes, I'm on Instagram.
He is one of the, he's a Pilates PT who is also, he's like kind of like an evidence-based Pilates and strength coach, he's a PT. And he has like a Pilates reformer there and a rack there, and he goes back and forth. In my book, I would never, ever do that because it's two different methods, it's two different energies, it's two different, we want to have formulas of a couple of sets and a couple of reps. You know now why? Because of that presentation earlier, right? So why fatigue yourself, re-fatigue yourself with some Pilates work and then go to maximum or any type of strength even? So important, first and foremost, separate the two. Pilates, strength is strength. I usually start with strength. And then you have to deal with clients. They have preferences. Lowest hanging fruit, move them somehow. Right? I don't force someone to strength train. So sometimes so that's a preference too.
Okay,
Right?
but what is that marker for the body? Will be the.
But you want to do the more taxing things first. You don't want to pre-tire them with Pilates.
Okay.
Sometimes I do a quick match as a warm-up or some spring scenario just to warm them up a bit, but strength has to be as early on as possible. Then you can do Pilates after that, whatever. But yeah, I definitely would not mix the two together, separating it out and arranging the Pilates around your strengths somehow. And sometimes you could only get like one or two exercises for the lower body because they don't want to do more, or one or two exercises for the upper body. That's how it is. So my go-to there is usually not a squat, or in general, someone is just doesn't want to lift much. That's just how it is. My go-to exercise is a split squat. Let's do all the split squat together.
I always need to do this one. Something like that.
Let's do that together.
I wanted to just tell me about it and why you choose that.
I'm choosing that one because it's a very stable position, but it is surprisingly difficult if you do it right. So I usually put people, if you know your balance isn't so good, let's all go next to a wall. And I'll cue you. You go next to the wall. Let me show you what it looks like and then I'll cue you. Okay. Wall is here for balance, and it's a wall and nothing else because I don't want them to hold on. I want them to just push to stabilize. Because if they hold on, it's even less than body weight. So I'm also choosing that one because it's kind of like a one-legged scenario without being a Bulgarian, or even like a single-legged hinge, which is really technical for most people. So that leg is kind of out of the game. Now I have them lean forward because that taxes the glute more often. And in Pilates, you don't have many glute exercises, unfortunately, at all. Everything is more like this type of squat, right? Very quad dominant. So the lean is for the glute. This is just light, and it's not too far back because then I have automatically too much weight on there. Just a light tap here. And then I have them stay in this lean, because the lean loads this. And they go like as if they're in an elevator shaft. They keep the lean and moving with full range of motion. As most people are a bit wobbly, so that's why I do that next to the Cadillac. So you can put fingertips there. Oh, wall is even better. Okay. Everybody at a wall. Push with the arm, top of hand. Let's all do the same leg forward. The left one forward. Forward, yep. So push the top of the head against the wall. Yes, exactly. Good. Now, everybody goes good. Left leg forward. Now, make sure lean forward way more bar. Carolina is good. Good. Nice. But make sure you have the weight on the front heel. The bar shifts back a little bit. Yes, the back knee is bent. Don't bring the foot super back bar. There you go. Nice. Now, can everybody lift the back foot for me up a little bit and put it right down where you lifted it from. Keep it really light. Okay? So there's nothing under your feet. That was good. Just inch more, inch more forward. Yep, very good. Good, this is good. Nice. Now take a breath, hold your hand good. And lower down. And if you need travel forward, keep the heel down. Touch the floor. Keep the right foot on the floor. Now all the way down to the knee. Knee. And then you drive up, but stay leaning forward. And again, lower. Tap the knee to the floor. Good. Make the front leg fully. And repeat. Smoker looks good. All the way down, stay leaning, not the stay leaning up. Then begin to, then we'll stay forward, good. Back foot is light, right? Show me a light back foot. And we do 10. Now make sure your hips stay square. Tap the floor with the knee, Allison, nice. Rise with the heel, so you know the heel is straight, Allison. 10 times you count. Get back for yourself. That looks nice. Sorry, good. Yeah, and for you, good. Then. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great.
Pretty
Do we do that again? We have to do that
So it's
again.
also easy now to give them a 20-pound dumbbell. And that starts then to get really nice and spicy.
You put it in the opposite
In the
hand.
opposite hand of the Cadillac. Exactly. If your right foot is now forward, right foot forward, yeah, you put it in the left hand.
So only the hand is pressing into the wall, not.
Yeah, maybe you don't even need it, you're barefoot. You can do it freestanding too. Yes, not the shoulder, good point, just the hand, because that all de-looks them, you know? Isn't that you, no, sorry, if you remember that, right? Yeah. Are you better at it now? Maybe. I do. I don't know. You don't see it like. Yeah, no, I started it. Yeah.
Is that the one you had?
Can you feel it?
Yes, I started one.
Yes, everybody?
Yes.
Same. That went like this too.
Yeah. So that's just more for if someone's just single leg deadlift is a great exercise. You know, this one, it's a great exercise, it's a great exercise. But this whole business of really keeping the hips square, it's just so hard to do and understand for most people. And you know, some people are just can't help injuries, and I just see them as the best support. So that I have my but it's really unbelievable. And I do one for a postural one where I put a foam roller here. Oh, I didn't, yeah. And then this is really helping with the hinge. Because it's just knows as well.
Well, isn't this one, even if it's unloaded, if you load it, you still build it?
Yes,
right?
so now we're tapping more into rehab posture training.
Yes,
Yes, so open up the capsule. I mean, this is beyond the scope of this, but opening up the back of the capsule here is really helping with internal rotation. Right, and that is for many people lack. Yes, that's this. But, you know. Any questions?
I think it's maybe too small question, I mean, maybe reversing question, but, with the people with strengths and endurance, people with strengths. Of the other one.
Hypertrophy, bodybuilding.
Yeah, but still they, some people in place, want to do the opposite. What do you think they're doing?
What they're looking for or when they should do it?
No, what they're looking for in the opposite.
I don't know, honestly. I honestly started doing it again after not doing Pilates for years. It's really, is because I like how it takes the joints into a full range of motion under the load. You know, like just pulling, so many exercises where you can go at any range and you have load on. And, you know, if you can do something healthy, by mechanically to our bodies is moving it into many planes of motion every day, right? And we're in this often, so we need to involve this. So we need to tap into the ability and variabilities that our joints have. It's so important. That I'd really like to talk about this. Enrich strength. It's really more of like longevity maintenance type thing, but rather than getting strong in that range, you know. But you know, someone just asked me once, so when, if you're strength training, when should you utilize? Because if you look at the regulations, how much should I strength training? The AS American College of Sports Medicine, the ACSM that I mentioned earlier, they have this exercise, you know, about what is scientifically proven to be the best amount of strength training. It seems like a lot. Yeah. Like, okay, I mean, every major muscle group for 10 sets per week. So I'm doing that, and then I have to do cardio 3 times a week, and then. Okay, so the week has 7 days. I should also, you know, some way in which, you know, I can't forbid my stomach. You have to arrange it and see if you can, you know, if high intensity exercise, high intensity cardio, you can really limit your time there by just doing intervals in, you know, because that doesn't take very long. You can get a good high intensity, like heart rate up a lot, interval workout done in 20 minutes. So that's it. I would do Pilates on deload days, and that's what I would recommend to do. You know, zero recovery. Have the blood flowing, and it works, the muscles get blood to the muscles in case you're sore. I also, on a finishing note, I wanted to say, in science, when I did my master's degree, there was, when we had like special populations classes, so we had physiology for general populations. The general populations are all kinds of diseases. Musculoskeletal is only one part. There's metabolic disease, heart. Special populations are also pregnant, older, but all kinds of really like diseases where people are really sick, cancer, etc. So every research, when it comes to these populations, back then, that was my graduates, you know, so not that long ago, every recommendation for these special populations was always aerobic training. I was already like, so what's recommended for these populations, right? To increase their quality of life, to increase health parameters, was always aerobic training. But that was not because aerobic training is superior, but it was because that's what was then used to test. That's what the studies were about that. And in recent years, there have been a lot of studies now moving because the field and cardiovascular investigation scientifically is kind of exhausted now. So people look more and more, what does strength training do for these populations? And there are more studies investigating the benefits of strength training for general populations, for special populations, for metabolic disease people, etc. And it has such amazing benefits for their health parameters too. So this is why we hear this all over social media as well. Now it is so. Last note, you're really part of something bigger if you are now turning towards that, because strength training is so beneficial, so important to improving not just strength but health. Your body composition, the health, your longevity, right?
I guess like for us Pilates instructors, as a studio owner, we need to validate our jobs. Like in the sense, like, is this like if strength training has all of these wonderful benefits, like is Pilates just kind of I mean, what's the point of it? And
well, it is the point to get someone to the studio and start moving. An entrance point. Where do we take them? And maybe at some point, you know, I love people in the Pilates studio and then they graduate to here. Yeah. Oh, right. To have them enjoy, because this is just, we went upstairs, but it's too loud and this is not busy. this gym is, you know, it's loud, it's sometimes so hard to, you know. and That's not even peak hour when you're coming, but it can be intimidating in gym scenario. Then you don't really know what you're doing. You know, there are many points for Pilates, that you have someone with low back pain and et cetera, et cetera. It's a very deloaded, low impact way, because that's what it was conceived. We're always often on our backs, and not really a lot of load for the spines, and we do move people there. So for these conditions that many people have, that's a great thing to do. Well, very deconditioned people, I mean, we have some really weak people in the street, right? So they're moving and slowly getting stronger. There are many points that speak for it, but it's not the be all, what is it? Be all, that, oh, and yes, you know, it's a good beginning, but there are definitely things that
What I like about strength training in conjunction with Pilates is like a lateral move, whereas like Pilates, if you start getting more advanced, it's more acrobatic. Whereas people who get to a certain point in Pilates, like, okay, they're not gonna roll over and do these fancy tricks, but it's to move them in a way that progresses their strength wise. So that's a good point. Rather than, you know, just, it's like, I have some people, I will never teach, you know, the standing chest expansion or but certain things that I'll never do, they'll never roll over because they have a neck issue. So how do you progress them in a way?
Yeah, that's the toughest population, people who've done it for a long time.
Yeah.
How you progress them in Pilates, but the progressions are more flexibility required, like tension stretch and range strength, does that. And range strength is really hard for some people, and is it even beneficial for them? Is it beneficial for them to lift the hips up? That's one of the big progressions we have in Pilates. Hips up, roll over and all that. Right. Really late to do that for the health, for their strength. All right.
Right.
Wow. It's a hard population, like the strong women who you can't take into the dancers, gymnastics, kind of realm of Pilates. How do you progress them? I'm not with Pilates, I think. All right, guys, I'm also, last, this is not new, this format. I worked with someone in the industry for a year, and I'm really mad at myself that I've wasted so much time with that person. We talked on the phone for 2 hours to align ourselves, to find common ground, to choose a big name in the industry for osteoporosis, and she's looking for someone who has the strength component, who can do the best person for this. And I wasted a whole year of getting this kind of going. We even talked legal terms, you know, what am I owning? You know, what am I owning when I join her brand, blah, 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 blah. And then in the end, it was like, yeah, you know, that's pretty good. I don't really know how clients. I was so mad at myself that I didn't notice that before, but this is how I developed this idea anyway, you know, developing a strength program from women practitioners, that's for teachers rather, this is what this is. So this is has been in the making for a long time in my head and on paper. I just lost a year talking to that person. It was not her fault, it was my fault that I didn't realize it, but yeah. So this is growing, and this will become a program that with many more aspects, because there's so much to talk about. There's postural issues, there's like rehab stuff that you tap into when you live 10 years. It's super interesting. It's great, right? And what I love about it, and what I'm passionate about, it gives me so many more options. And Pilates will always do like Pilates, right? You know, with boxing, you can't really help people that well. You have the freedom of trying this or that, or tapping into that, or taking that certification. So yeah, so this will become something bigger, I hope, and I'm love that you are here, part of the first round. So let's make this big together. Okay.
Awesome.
Honest feedback, a text, or you know, help me with feedback, because I want to make this better. Right? I mean, did this cover all your questions? Probably not, but I need to make decisions what you might find interesting, you know. I can't go too deeply into the rehab part of it, so, but, yeah, let me know if you have questions. We can do a couple of questions now if you want, if you have to leave before the understand, how long, how many, yeah.
I want to help, you know, while we put some stuff away.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna upload these onto the Google.
And I asked one of my clients, a doctor, I said, we go over it's cheese. I told him, oh, he was doing it, and said, she's right. Pilates does not do that. You need to do strength training 3 times a week.
Yes.
I'm sure I've never said that. And so I've been doing that for 2 years, like class, and then we will, that's the training. And I said, you just gotta get there.
And yeah.
Oh, summer.
Yes, Wendy.
Oh, you have to stay before.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. So awesome. You're
I
so,
am
you're,
going
you're,
to,
friggin'
let's
forward.
put this here.
Why did you get that? Do you have sample?
Speak to me.
No, I'm just saying, I'm saying thank you. This was awesome. I don't even know how to begin to say how great it was. It's
Was
great.
it helpful?
It was great. It's exactly what you said to me a couple weeks ago that it was going to be. Yeah, it was incredibly helpful. I mean, to everything that I already knew, I know and do. And yes, it's amazing. Yes.
So I hope it inspired you a little bit, and I hope it inspired
Oh
you.
my gosh. Yeah,
to,
totally. You have no idea. I can't tell you even how much. Yes.
Get in touch with me if you want to talk about what certification.
I do. And I'll see you in January.
Awesome.
Okay. I love you. Thank you.
Mwah.
They should be doing your sandbags.
Well, it should be. What was I?
We're still recording.
Oh.
Here. No, I should order.